Hmm.
About the scenario, and that is
Hmm. Let's watch. You know what? Let's go into. Scientology is live. What are they doing?
It seemed like he was not paying attention. I had been just done a lesson about alcohol to them, and I asked a bunch of questions that I had just covered the week before. So I didn't expect any of them to pay attention. And I noticed this one kid that seemed to never be paying attention had
God damn it! Scientology's just doing their thing. Let's see. Hmm. If all animals besides humans stop breeding, that would be a good thing. Okay, agreed. But I mean, it'd be also good if animals stop breeding too. Okay, cool. Dumbest video I've ever seen.
There is no worse atrocity than death. There is no worse
I don't know
atrocity
about that.
than a death sentence to a living nihilistic hell, to a subordinate suicide, forced and Machiavellianized into something that is just a recurrence. That's all it is. It's just a recurrence. And it just happens over and over and over again for the sake of the powerful and the rich. And yeah, the atrocities are never enough. Being born into this world is literally worse than rape, literally worse than murder, literally worse than torture by design. And yeah, that's how people get across their points to me. Because I'm just a witch. I mean, I'm literally just a witch. I won't get very far in this life. I won't do the things that I want to do. I mean, everything else will be done for me except for my death, the way I have power over my death. So yeah, we have the burden of promortalism because we are purely mortal. There is no God in our realm of philosophy. Socrates is not a god. Jesus was not a god. Jesus was a philosopher, you could say. So, yes, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on, and everything seems to be of accident. Everything seems to have poofed, to have farted into existence from God. The Big Bang And here we are as an accident in our faith to that creation, and we're merely acting in that faith to our creation, and that's why we have the definite and determinate philosophy of
Fucking,
pro-mortalism, and that's why
fucking prove it, you
pro-mortalism stands as the
goddamn
right and accurate
Mormonism,
stand.
ass motherfucker. No, but really, prove it to me. Like, we're all gods. Yeah, sure thing. If I'm a god, I will slaughter you all in the afterlife, one by one. Because if I'm equal in power to you all, that means I can kill you all. Which means you will all be dead in the afterlife when no one can stop me. Well, there we go. How about that? I will tear the divinity from you and drain you dry. And I will go for your brethren next. Allergies are a bitch, man. I don't even really happen that much, but it's fucking something about this shitty air. Ha! Dude, Soft Apple, do you see this buffoon? The fact that you think humans are moral agents and support blowing up the entire planet to eliminate suffering means you believe humans are gods. No, I just believe we are moral agents. There's a complete difference between gods and moral agents, you silly Billy. How does being a moral agent equate to us being gods? Uh-huh. Frankly, if that is something that, means we are a god, then guess what? Humans have the possibility to become gods. And I think that's pretty fucking metal, home slice. And I have no problem with that. So, what's the dealio? We're not gods in any sense of divinity, but if you think being able to blow up the whole planet means we're gods, then call us gods. That what makes you hard, I guess. Well, we did make gods up. Fair enough. Don't know who's watching anymore, but yeah. It's just war games unless you say it was a bad thing. Yeah, basically. I mean, I think it's just a bad thing because human implying we're gods implies that we're immortal, and that implies that like promortalism's not a thing, which is silly. And God is a co-creator. One is neither either God or a slave to nature. I don't know about that. You're either just a part of nature, or you're just a part of nature. Everything is a part of nature. You're not a slave to nature. Slave to nature implies nature has a mind and some a will that you're falling prey to. There, you have like this mindset that nature has a mind. There's some external line in the universe, and you always have. You can bring it up over and over and over. But there is no mind in the world. You have to be able to change the world. Animals don't. I already said that humans are moral agents. That doesn't mean we're gods. Doesn't mean we're creators. Doesn't mean we're slaves. Nature doesn't have anything. It's just a symbolic thing that we assign value to and assign words to. And it's just a symbol, bro. Nature's a symbol. There is no mind of nature. So when it comes down to it, we're moral agents. Not all people are moral agents. Barely a moral agent. But yeah, it's just what I'm saying. Man, I don't fucking know. Being a god isn't the same as being God. Oh, well, I don't really see them as any difference. Uppercase, lowercase g. I just kind of am like, well, you don't have to be immortal to be a god. Oh, fair enough. Well, to me, God means something supernatural, something above the physical, and there's nothing above the physical, so I don't think, you know, I don't really buy that. But stuff that Apple Core says is animals change the world, just not conscious intent or for the purpose other than survival. And I'd agree with that. Animals do change the world, as I said earlier in the last stream or the stream, that predators and stuff like are good. They kill things and jazz, primordialism, you know. So animals do change the world, just not necessarily consciously, which means they're not moral agents. They're just kind of involved in morality, but they're not agents because they're not aware of what they're doing. I mean, yeah, they can do all those things, but that doesn't have any supernatural element. That's just biology, man. I don't really think that's playing God or whatever. I mean, you can just say, I mean, it's all definitions and word stuff. It's just semantics, as Apple says. It doesn't really matter, but I mean, As I said, to me, God means something supernatural. None of that is supernatural. It's just biology. I mean, unless you think creating any being of any sort, like just giving birth to someone is playing God, then yeah, sure, people can play God, but people aren't actual gods in any sense. People can mimic the behavior of God entities by like creating and destroying things, but with intention. But that's about it. I agree with what Soft Apple Core just said. These words you're choosing to describe these things in format to me imply more fantastical and loaded description with emotional weight. Exactly, basically. That's kind of what I am basically thinking as well. Those believe God is supernatural are ignorant. Well, I think you just have different definitions of God then, because there's no reason to worship being that's not. There's no reason to worship a being that's not supernatural. If you can kill it, why worship it? If it bleeds, if it dies, if it can be destroyed, if it's abided to the laws of entropy, why worship such a being? It's not even anything that's anything. It doesn't have any substance to it. It doesn't have any perfection to it. That's flawed. It can be destroyed. It can be manipulated. It's not God's flawed thing. God is something that defies the physical. That's like more perfect than physical. But fair enough. I mean, whatever. It's just definitions, it's word games and bullshit. I'm not even entertain it. Again, I agree with Apple for living in realities in your mind to cope with or engage with like-minded people, but when having conversation, using more standard definitions is best. Yeah, basically. It's like, or at least explaining your definition to some extent, just being like, or at least giving up, like, being like, yeah, by your definition, that makes sense, blah, 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 blah. That's the definition I'm using, blah, 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 blah. You're just kind of like, no, you're ignorant if you don't accept my definition. And I'm kind of like, no, bro. Your definition, bro, is very unorthodox informant. So I'm not gonna accept your definition of God, at least unless you really want me to. Which then, as far as I'm aware, a rabbit can be a god, or anything can be a god. I don't fucking know. Like tornadoes can be gods, so it can like fucking vape factories can be gods. I don't fucking know. God's not supposed to be worshipped either. Oh well, I don't even know what you fucking. Wait. You haven't even gave me a definition of God yet, bro. You have all the time in the world to type here, and you could be typing away. I've been talking about the subject for like 10 minutes now, and you've not given me a definition of your God, I guess. So, until you do so, I'm just gonna keep saying that I disagree. So, I thought you didn't believe in duties and responsibilities, really, but fair enough. I mean, besides to family, I guess. Why would God? Why would you believe in a God or not? Like, I'm like curious. Sounds at this rate that you believe in a God because you have such a niche definition for a God. Sounds like you either believe in God or at one point believed in God. So, we should probably just, fucking share the link again. I don't know if I shared the link in this one. A God is a creator. Well, then rabbits can be creators, and germs are creators. Everything can create. I mean, it's kind of the definition of life is something that's able to replicate itself and shit like that. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, by your definition, a God shapes the world. Well, all things shape the world to some extent or another, bro. Like, even me just blowing in the air right now moves atoms, which move other atoms, which move other atoms, which move other atoms. Even if it's not really noticeable, me doing almost anything affects the entire world to some extent or another, the whole universe. Everything's connected. Ooh, shit, you know. By your definition, everything can be considered God. So I feel like that's just bullshit and silly billy stuff, and I don't want to use that definition. It's too broad. So fuck the esoteric motherfuckers. I don't believe in a supernatural God, but you believe in like some metaphysics bullshit, like like fucking Schopenhauer says, like, oh, the will. I, there is no will, Home Slice. You keep on referring to like Mother Nature and nature having like a mind and a will or some like desire for like all there is just survival and the random mutations that happen to be selected for. Kane, I'm at work, so don't, but it doesn't matter. Fair enough. Religious spoke, man. Anyways, so you never secretly said to yourself, "God, please help me," or I mean, I've asked God for help if there is a God, but there's been no response because there is no God. I mean, makes sense logically speaking that there would be no God. That if there was such a thing at one point, it definitely killed itself and became the universe. But that's just mainlander's opinion, bro, and he's probably right. So hey, when it comes down to it, there is no God. There's just the universe and physicalism, which is random and chaotic and without purpose. There's no will behind it, there's no mind behind it. It's just chaos and selected for chaos via survival of the environment. Why is it important is because most people see themselves as slaves rather than agents of change. Well, you're right. I know that because my friends are a bunch of dweebs who are just like, oh, we can't do anything besides affecting what we do in ourselves. I'm like, nah, really, there's no difference in yourselves and the rest of the world. How's it going, spiritual oyster, spirit oyster? Yeah, see, antinatalist informant just wants people to think they have free will and are like agents again. But I've already been saying that we're all moral agents. We have the ability to essentially cause actions in the world and understand how our actions affect other people, as Amendum has said many times. We can understand experience generates value. Just a picture is worth 1,000 words, and experience is worth an entire book. You know, I'm doing okay. So when it comes down to, yeah, I'm doing okay. By the way, I'm doing okay. But yeah, basically we can understand things like about morality and ethics without having to be like, oh, we're gods and we're like basically above everything else around us. We are like all this woo spiritualist language. You don't need to use that. You just need to be like, hey man, your mind and your mind that understands that there's other minds, and that means you're responsible. I mean, I agree. People didn't see themselves as slaves and like other like bullshit mentalities. That would do a lot more to change the world. But I mean, I don't think we should indoctrinate people with like religious language just to change that. I mean, it's just a little bit silly in my opinion. I don't know that spirit oyster. I think we're all responsible for each other. We're all Earthlings on this planet. We're responsible for helping each other out. I mean, you didn't get to where you are right now without the help of other people. So I mean, why should you not help other folks, given that they're just as valuable as yourself? And given that yourself doesn't really exist, it's kind of an illusion. There's only experience, and other things are also generating experience. So, I think that's the problem I have to the spiritual language is not reaching the more objective definition of things. People aren't gods because they have agency and can create and change the world, basically. Gonna switch to YouTube. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Spirit Oyster. Everybody's talking on YouTube, and usually I post the comments, but I don't feel like moving today. So, think you need love to make you happy, says Kane. I mean, you may be right, Kane, but here's the thing. I have only non-romantic love in my life. I mean, at least at the moment, and it's a lonely, lonely world. So, yeah, the self-devil says they're just people, but I understand wanting to wake them up to the real ability to do good or bad. Yeah, it's like basically, it's like people are really are moral agents. They don't understand what that means. So they make people feel like they're gods is better, but then they're making them feel like nihilistic and like that nothing matters. But at the same time, God is just like a weird spiritual woo-wah language I don't want to use. No one helped me but me. I kind of disagree with that. I mean, we're mammals, and most mammals heavily rely on their uh, parental figures or community to grow up. See this people who are controlling the world see themselves as gods, and they see us as slaves. Will say is well, here's the thing, anti-analyst informant. They might view themselves as gods, but they're not gods. They're just human beings of power. They're just pathetic. They're essentially too weak to even control their own biological instincts and realize that, they're basically hurting beings who are equivalent to themselves. And that truly, if they really wanted to help themselves, just blast their own brains out. So, payment bills, that's it. Well, yeah, now you pay your bills and all that stuff, but at some point you had to rely on other people. Like, I mean, I used to be independent for most part. I had roommates and stuff, but I mean, when it comes down to it, we all are reliant on other beings. If I don't have money and be homeless, true freedom is getting someone else to pay your bills. Pretty much, man. Getting someone else to pay your bills is true freedom. Basically, the capitalist dream. Just have wage slaves work for you. I mean, hey, man, you don't have money to be homeless. I'm in the negative money. I'm not homeless yet. Eventually will be though, maybe. But who cares? Who really cares? I kind of have to agree with Soft Apple here. It's a little mean way to put it, but yeah, I mean, I basically would say the exact same thing if I had the energy to say it like that right now. But yeah, pretty much, it's like, do you hunt your own food? Do you provide? Do you work at your own food? Not really. You have to go to the grocery store and all that. Like everything is a social community thing. We're working together, man. Humans work together in all kinds of weather. Work is slavery. Yeah, basically. I mean, work is essentially slavery. We're getting underpaid. We're forced to live in by rent for half the time, and it's just going back to different people, and it's just like cycle. It's basically slavery with extra steps. Hmm. Apparently, they're gods because they're boss or authorities. Now it just means they're pricks of control and have guns and shit. That just mean they're gods. Just means they're asshole. Put a bullet into their head and they still died, chief. Not relying if they don't work, they don't get paid. I mean, yeah, if you don't work, you don't get paid, but doesn't mean you still aren't relying on other people to do certain things in the system or be relies on it's like an ant colony. The ant works, but the ant relies on the whole colony to get to survive. One ant's not gonna be able to survive on its own, even if it works quite hard. So it's like that basically. Gaines kind of right. We should all be farmers because if we were all farmers, we could live a way better lifestyle. But guess what? That's not going to be the case. And if we were all farmers, we wouldn't be able to end all life on Earth, and that would be a big old shame. We agree to disagree. Fair enough. I'm cool with that. It's not really the topic. The topic today is mainly about abortion and what we all do to be good moral agents. Are you consider yourself a good moral agent, and if so, why? And also, what's your opinion on abortion? Those are the two big topics we're talking about today. It's abortion and moral agency, and if you're a good moral agent, and if you think you are, why? Basically, the two topics. I've already had one person come in here and be like, I'm a good moral agent, and I basically just shut them down. I'm like, you're a shitty moral agent. And then there's other people like Profit who are like didn't really say anything about that. I don't know if you're here when I don't know if he was here when we were having that conversation, but I'm sure he thinks he's a good moral agent, but I would disagree. So, there's plenty of people that think they're good moral agents that are not. Peter Singer has a nice little article on that. So, I am above them. Uh, well, here's the thing, Anthony. Listen for a minute. I view myself as actually above them. I don't view myself as equal to most people. I view myself as above you. I view myself as above most people. Because I view importance of people based on if they're a good moral agent or a bad moral agent. That's the only thing that I view as having value is if you generate enough pain, you're a bad person. And if you prevent enough pain, you're a good person. So, and that's the only thing that I take into consideration. So I basically already consider myself better than most people on the planet by 100 times over, basically. So I consider myself better than they lead by quite a bit. So by your standards, I'm basically beyond a god. So understandable. Well, after you're done with work, you can explain it to me, I suppose, in chat via voice. How can that be true? Because most people think they're good people, but I know I'm a good person because when it comes down to it, I do what is objectively good, which is trying to prevent suffering. Most people just rely on emotions, which is funny, as you said, because they rely on emotions, and they think like Abelard does, which is intentionalism. But intentions pave the path to hell. So when it comes down to it, don't rely on intentions. Dan List informant is pro-abortion. Fuck yeah, good for you, my dude. At least we can agree on that. Very few would truly say I'm a bad person. Well, I used to say I'm a bad person. I used to think I was one of the worst people on the planet, and I was one of the worst people on the planet. Now I'm one of the best people on the planet. It's funny how that flips. But when it comes down to it, yeah, I mean, at least, I'm a bad person. Are you now? I mean, you might be a bad person if you're not a vegan, then I'd say you're probably a bad person. If you're a vegan and you're antinatalist and you're doing some form of activism, then you're probably a decent person. But until then, you're probably not. So Try to become a vegan, try to become an activist, then you'll be a good person, you know. If you basically my standard for goodness, I think, is pretty much objective. I think I consider people good people if they prevent more harm than they generate, because everybody generates some harm, but if you prevent more harm, basically if you're positive in utility, I guess, then I consider you a good person. Otherwise, you're a bad person. I mean, it's basically very standard utilitarian definition, but just flipped for negative utility to be about preventing pain and causing pain instead of pain to pleasure. So, sure, it's kind of subjective still to me, but I think it's closest you can get to objective definition of like what it means to be a good person is if you do more good than bad. That's true. We just have to guess, but we can never really know if someone's a good person or a bad person. But we can kind of calculate somewhat, like like shoving a person in front of traffic for no reason is probably going to create a lot of distress for no reason, you know. So stuff like that, like, probably makes you a bad person. Assuming that person was gonna like also like a good person, like an antinatalist, like shove another antinatalist in front of traffic. We're gonna assume is gonna be a bad thing in the world with pretty high probability. Well, shoving a rapist in front of traffic, on the other hand, would probably be a good thing, because rapists are likely to repeat rape, and rape causes a lot of trauma. So, like we can kind of like assess things, I think, pretty accurately. Yeah, exactly. Like a person that could be the next Hitler in the crash, and that could be a good thing, or it could be, an antinatalist that's in the car crash, and we don't really know. But for the most part, we can assume that, like assuming like all things being equal, that everybody's a good person. We can assume certain cases on things. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, at least in the perks of like they have potential to become good people. I don't care about being good. I care about being correct, says Danny. That's the informant. Well, they're the same thing, my dude. Being correct and being good are the same thing. So it's either you're being. I basically think I'm being correct and good are the same thing, and I believe that I am a good person because I'm correct. I don't believe that you're correct, so I don't believe that you're necessarily the best person you could be. But hey, you're also an antinatalist. You just need to become a vegan. You're basically like 90% there, G. So you just need to become a vegan or scriptarian or not basically bring animals into existence by your actions for no reason. So once you do that, then you'll be an actual antinatalist. Your name is antinatalist informant, but you do bring animals into existence via supply and demand. So it's kind of funny, haha. You're not a centric antinatalist. We're going downhill. The only solution to save Mother Earth. If not, we are doomed. Earth finds a way to balance itself, and I doubt that. Yeah, exactly. Uh, as Seth Applecore says, I don't want to save Mother Earth. Mother Earth's a dumb bitch. She's evil. She's not very motherly at all. We want to bring the doom. We want to destroy all life, all ecology, all habitats. We want no sentience remaining on this rock. We want to turn to a dust bowl. I would let them both go, assuming that I could. No, I'm talking about Mother Earth. Earth. No. No, I was talking about Mother Earth. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Mother Earth is a bitch. Hey, man, that too. Just kidding. My mom thought I was talking about her. That's pretty funny. But no. But yeah, at Kane, yeah, the answer is both. If or just doesn't really matter to me, frankly. Frankly, they're both not vegan and both not antinatalists. So either hey, they're both not vegan, they're both not antinatalists. So it's not harsh. It's just the right thing to do. It's just the moral thing to do. It's just as fucking whatever his name is, bitch face McGee, antinatalist informer says, I don't care about being good, I care about being correct and sane. The good of the majority is for everyone to stop reproducing and end this at Spirit Oyster. Facts. Well, you don't believe a lot of things that are correct and analyst informant, so you believe that like there's Mother Nature has like a mind and that there's like some cosmic will going on. So I know you don't believe a lot of things that I think are correct or incorrect. So you believe a lot of incorrect things and don't believe a lot of correct things. So I mean, let's just set that on the table for now. Um, Need meat for brain health. Do you know what the meat? What do you need for brain health that's found in meat home slice? Vegans eat the animals' food. No, they don't. 60% of all crops go to feeding animals. So vegans aren't taking any of the food from the animals. Animals are taking the food from us. So we're bringing them into existence for no reason and then feeding them. They don't need the food if we didn't feed them. Blah blah blah. Basically, more crops go to feeding animals that wouldn't have existed because we didn't bring them here in the first place. So protein, I can get plenty of protein from plant sources, not animal sources. Like literally, my cereal has 13 grams of protein per serving. I take an iron supplement, which isn't protein, but I can get iron from there. I can get all the nutrients that I need essentially from, you know, plant-based diets. I mean, how do you think cows get their proteins? They get their proteins. They need proteins also. They get from plants. We just need to synthesize it in a way that we can eat it as well. I can't believe I even still allow him to talk on this channel sometimes. Basically, oh god, informant. Fertilizer. Growing veggies uses fertilizer. Animal fertilizer. It doesn't necessarily use animal fertilizer. You can get fertilizers that are non-animal based. I mean, even if you couldn't, I mean, you know, you can. There's plenty of animals in existence that we can exploit without bringing new ones into existence. Plus, we're for ending life universally, so it's not exactly like we need to keep bringing a lot of food into existence, seeing as how we're just trying to end all life on Earth, you know? I like meat tasty and good for health. You know, I like the taste of meat too, and it is good for your health, but it also causes cancer. So it's bad for your health in other aspects as well. Has a lot of cholesterol, which is bad for your heart. So there's a lot of things that are bad with meat as well as good with meat. And when it comes down to it, what's more important is it causes unnecessary suffering into the world. And that's what all things break down to is experience of suffering and pleasure, if pleasure even exists. And given that their identity is equal to our own identity, blah, 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 we shouldn't cause unnecessary suffering to other beings. It's basically just causing unnecessary suffering to ourselves. And yeah, I mean, I've already gone over this before, but the world needs a Joker. It does. We just need. What about bugs? Bugs are. We can bring up a video on bug ethics if you really want. But yeah, bugs are also able to feel discomfort, so don't hurt bugs. If you do, I mean, kill bugs, but don't hurt bugs. I mean, that's basically what I say. And who cares if they're fertilized by insects? If insects want to fertilize things naturally, then they can go for it. They're gonna do it either way, because insects want the pollen for whatever the hell their purpose is for the pollen. It's a symbiotic relationship. You're not bringing them into existence, they are bringing themselves into existence. Can't believe I have to explain this bullshit. Still. It just drains my energy, man. Even the people in the own community don't understand shit for shit, man. It's okay, though. It's okay. Some of you aren't part of the F-list and anti-list community who are listening. You don't understand this, and I respect that, and I'm willing to help you learn. Others, I'm just kind of disappointed. Others, I'm just disappointed. Well, Spirit Oyster, what do you mean by somebody? Because an ant is a somebody in my mind. I mean, there's you can experience there is an experience of what it's like to be an ant. So an ant is a somebody. An ant has a mind. An ant has like an experience. It can feel pain. It can feel pleasure. And yeah, you just said you like meat. So basically, if you are counting as animals, as I count animals as somebody's as well. So I mean, even more than ants because they can feel pain at a higher degree. Hey man, and rapists like rape. I mean, it doesn't justify that. You're so funny, Brand. I'm not sure if I'm funny, but I like to try to be funny sometimes. You'd have to explain why I was funny though, because sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I can't tell if people are just being sarcastic about my asshole nature. So if I am funny, though, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. If it's sarcasm, then yeah, I appreciate the sarcasm. It's mutual. So, There's no such thing as veganism. All food is created by exploding animals. You're kind of right, bud, but at the same time, there's different levels of exploitation, utility, blah blah blah. Stop being a little bitch. You know what the word vegan means. Because meat oyster boy. um, why sacrifice my pleasure of eating meat to get ill from a vegetarian diet? Well, not vegetarian, vegan. One, vegetarian vegan diets are viable for all ages and sexes, and even pregnant women. So you won't be ill. Um, you'll be fine. Veganism means a lot of plant-based diet has nothing to do with ethics of explaining else, whatever. Can you eat chicken? No, you cannot eat chicken. It's an animal and a sentient being. It suffers. No, you cannot eat chicken on a vegan diet. Um, let's just go and watch Primordialism. I hate being alive. Okay. Um.
If the bad things in life outweigh the good things, if one accepts this sort of pessimism about existence, does this imply that death is not an evil? Now, in discussing death, it's important to say that we are not talking about the process of dying and everything related to this. We're not talking about any fear one might have towards death or about how one's death might affect others. What we're talking about is death itself for the one who dies. So suppose someone came into your room tonight and killed you in your sleep painlessly without you being aware of any of it. Would this be a bad thing? Has something bad happened to you? Now, one important thing we notice about death is that death is not the sort of thing that's bad for us in the way that pain, for instance, is bad for us. In that pain is bad intrinsically, whereas the same cannot be said, or at least it's not clear how it can be said, about not existing. That is, there's nothing bad about being dead as such, because for one thing, we no longer exist at that point. Thus, Epicurus famously argued that death is nothing to us, for when we are, death isn't, and when death is, we will be no longer. Now, a common response to Epicurus is that while death itself may not be bad, death can be bad in a certain relational sense, inasmuch as it deprives us of a future of good things. So according to this view, the badness of death consists not in not existing itself, but in the loss of good things, and being deprived of a life that would have been good. Now, if we accept that this is more or less the right way to think about death, the right way to account for its significance, and further we accept that there is in fact more bad in our lives than good, and I think there are good reasons to think this is the case, this would seem to imply that death isn't bad at all. In fact, what this seems to imply is that death is good, inasmuch as it prevents a life that would have been bad on balance. Now, things can get slightly more complicated if we consider at what point in our lives ceasing to exist is good for us. After all, a life that's bad on balance might still have its good days, even good years. My own feeling, however, is that just as there are no good lives on balance, there are no good years on balance. In fact, I'm inclined to say that there are seldom good days on balance. Well, if this is true, then ceasing to exist will be good at more or less any point in an individual's life. And although we often worry that pro-mortalism, or if you like a pro-death position, would imply killing, this need not follow from it, even in those cases where killing would, let's say, be painless and affect no one else. And this is because, as I've stated elsewhere, we generally demand more certainty in our convictions when imposing decisions of this kind on others, especially one as serious and final as death. That is, it's one thing to be confident enough to subject yourself to something. It's another thing.
Hello, we're talking about pro-mortalism. How's it going?
And so if this argument works, a pro-mortalist, seems to me, can coherently oppose killing. So that is all for now, and thanks for listening.
Primordialism is a philosophical view that ceasing to exist is always a positive phenomenon. It recognizes that to cease to exist is always better for an individual than existence. In fact, although philosophical primordialism always sees cessation as desirable from a selfish point of view, nowadays, primordialism also seems to describe the notion that there are situations in which it is selfishly profitable to continue to exist. The original primordialism, propagated by Ji-Won Huang, makes it clear that ending existence is always better for the individual than continuing life, and that, assuming annihilationism, therefore assuming that death is annihilation, it is, other things equal, always individually more profitable to choose an earlier death. I consider such absolute primordialism to be a logical
No,
coherent.
I'm not talking really fast. I mean, I do talk really fast, but the video you're listening to right now is a different video. I'm just watching at 1.75 speed. If it is too fast for you, then I can slow it down a bit to like 1.25. So no, I'm not talking very fast. It's just the video that's talking really fast. Unless you're talking like right now, this man talking. If I'm talking really fast right now, then yes, I'm talking really fast. But that's just because I talk fast sometimes. So, exactly want to spend your life taking pills and consuming chemicals. I mean, basically, it's the whole system. Capitalism, baby. They want you to just dump on pills down your throat and just be depressed and go to work. Be the wage slave, basically.
View, well argued, and deeply rooted in pure existential pessimism. Ji-Won Huang himself took his own life in his early 20s, as did the 19th century philosopher Philip Mainlander, at the age of 34, and probably like dozens of others who did not consider propagating that philosophy worth their time. Existential pessimism, in a way that seems to be rooted in our current understanding of a cosmos, claims that neither life nor conscious existence has any value in itself. The absolute of existence is a state devoid of ultimate meaning and purpose. There is a lack of fulfillment in the lives of sentient beings due to constant needs and desires, so existence is a state of constant existential dissatisfaction. All actions are motivated by needs that potentially never end, and meeting and satisfying them is necessary to get rid of negative sensations such as boredom, emptiness, despair, and suffering. All pleasant states can be brought down to reducing this existential, metaphysical dissatisfaction. Desires can be seen as undesirable in itself, as in tranquillism, or as the immediate cause of suffering, which only is bad in itself. On the first assumption, primordialism becomes legitimate and rational as long as there are desires or potential for them to exist. Therefore, as far as we know, in absolutely every logically possible state of being. In the second case, if transhumanism and superintelligence could eliminate suffering and replace the gradient of dissatisfaction with a gradient of bliss, primordialism need not be obligatory if we consider pleasure or fulfillment to be good in itself. Even in such a scenario, however, there is a potential for suffering, so primordialism still seems a rational choice. In practice, I do not see a way to create any positive state in itself. The phenomenon of pleasure and fulfillment, even if they were the only states that exist, does not make the gradient of dissatisfaction something else by nature. The only thing that changes is the intensity of the metaphysical dissatisfaction felt. If we could make all minds immune to suffering, knowing absolutely nothing they feel is unpleasant, it would probably be a beautiful vision, but the state of being, with the existence of desires, would still be a metaphysically negative state. In this case, however, apart from the possibility of suffering, which is extremely important in practice, I do not think that it is a problem. So far, however, transhumanism and the gradient of bliss on the desired level is a futuristic scenario, and the gradient of unpleasant dissatisfaction is responsible for the most actions in the life of sentient beings. By accepting the metaphysical view of reality postulated by existential pessimism and recognizing subjective fulfillment and non-fulfillment as a value, and it is in practice a value for every sentient being, life should be a state that does not bring and cannot bring anything different than, in the best scenario, minimization of the ultimate existential non-fulfillment. The state of non-existence, usually equated with death, is neither negative nor
No,
positive
Oyster
by
has
itself. It is
schizophrenia,
a
my
lack of
dude.
any state, an abstract concept, but associated.
Oyster has schizophrenia, soft apple core, so he's just straight vibing in his own half realm of our realm and half his like own realm. So Oyster has what? I'm pretty sure. Wait, is it you that has schizophrenia, or is it someone else that has schizophrenia? Someone I know has schizophrenia, or something like schizo something. They have schizo something. I'm stating fact. Hey man, I don't know what you want. Yeah. Ethalists aren't saying you can't hunt. Yeah, you can hunt if you're an ethalist. It's just the vegans that think that. And certain non but yeah.
With a real physical possibility. Death, more specifically non-existence, is not a negative phenomenon, and since there is no positive phenomenon by nature, it is the best possible state, because of its absolute neutrality and lack of any potential. Death is also not positive in itself. It is the termination and non-existence of negativity, which makes choosing it profitable from the perspective of the individual. Both Schopenhauer and Mainlander, who considered themselves an intellectual heir of Schopenhauer, held the view that deficiencies and non-fulfillment are what exists in a positive way. The nature of all feeling is only different levels of lack and non-fulfillment, resulting from the existence of unsatisfied and potentially impossible to satisfy cravings. The state of unsatisfied desires is an unfavorable condition. Ji-Won Huang used Benatar's asymmetry argument in his defense of primordialism, which fits perfectly into that inspired by Eastern religions reasoning. The lack of pleasure is not bad in itself. It is never bad to deprive of pleasure or satisfaction a non-existent being. On the other hand, the state of non-suffering is good even when there is no one to experience the suffering. In some sense, it is good strictly because of that. The argument from asymmetry is, in this sense and to some extent, a recognition of the metaphysical negativity of the essence of needs and therefore an expression of metaphysical pessimism. And it certainly does not contradict it in any aspect. Benatar himself denies that it would lead to primordialism. This is due, in whole or in part, to the assumption that death is always a harm, and that longer life can be desirable. Even if we consider death to be bad, which is not determined to be in full accord with the rest of Benatar's philosophy, and is certainly not obvious, death is also a necessity. It cannot be stopped, it can only be postponed. In case if it is a harm, a longer life adds only more harm to the one necessary. This potential inaccuracy was noticed and described by Rafe McGregor and Emma Sullivan Bissett in the article Better No Longer to Be, in a transparent manner, pointing out the most important inaccuracies. To quote, if one accepts Benatar's asymmetry between pleasure and pain, then prima facie one ought to accept that suicide is always preferable to continued existence. The reason for this is straightforward. If Benatar is right that it is better never to have existed, then non-existence must still be preferable to existing even when the agent in question has been unfortunate enough to be brought into existence. When the agent ceases to exist, the result is an absence of pain, which is good, and an absence of pleasure, which is not bad. This is the basic case for the claim that Benatar's antinatalism entails promortalism. Authors, neither of whom agree with the assumptions leading to primordialism, argue that the version of antinatalism that results from accepting asymmetry, without making any additional assumptions, clearly implies primordialism. I don't see the need to make additional assumptions, and that's why I believe it indeed the case. In his description of primordialism, Ji-Won Huang, in fact, familiar with the mentioned article, presents an identical view. Quotes, David Benatar's axiological asymmetry of harms and benefits, when combined with, exclusively, hedonistic view of harms and benefits, entails primordialism. Professor Benatar's view that the absence of pleasure of who never exists does not deprive, while the absence of pleasure of who cease to exist does deprive, has some absurd conclusions that judges which life is a preferable one differently in present and future life cases. Benatar's asymmetry should be applied to post-mortem non-existence as well. So long as one's remaining life will contain any pain, it is always preferable to cease to exist than to continue to exist. Rather than thinking the pro-mortalist implications as a reductio, believe in a soundness of pro-mortalism. For those unfamiliar with Jiwon Huang's argumentation, a link to his essay is provided below. Thus, in its pure form, premortalism states that existence is always a negative state and, hence, ceasing to exist is always in the interest of every individual. The sooner the less bad. In theory, the statement that life is ultimately a negative state should include the notion that there are or may be metaphysically positive elements in life, but the danger of suffering is too high, especially including the risk of astronomical suffering.
What?
I suppose you can just do the full amount to us because everything they didn't cover, which was $900 or something.
Yeah, you'll cover that.
We're covering it.
Okay.
Which makes life ultimately always unprofitable. The future existence itself can be seen as creating new entities, specifically future versions of our present person, as argued by Jiwon. It can be considered that the state of further life is comparable
The
to
only
the
purpose
creation
of
of new
life
beings,
is
assuming empty
to
individualism
clean
could
up
be
this
even
mess.
identical with that. In both cases, new experiences are created, new observer moments, exposed to suffering and guided by a pointless gradient of dissatisfaction. As Jiwon Huang describes it, one can think each moment one wakes up from sleep or every second of her life as an axiological equivalent of cases of coming into existence. Why should we treat the cases in which a person wakes up from unconsciousness differently from coming into existence? Moreover, in the intervening period of unconsciousness even needed? If not, we can construe each second of a person's life as a new life, as a coming into existence. This might not be a very absurd view if we were to deny that one exists as a distinct metaphysical self, personal identity, that does not change over time. One can prevent one's future self from coming into existence by death. In practice, paradoxically, premortalism is not the view that it is always a rational decision to kill yourself. The premise of moral solipsism does not seem very widespread, and certainly, if the value is to minimize harm from a global perspective, the death of some individuals may not ultimately be profitable, even though most beings most certainly do
Just
more
as
harm than they
it's your
prevent.
job
However,
to
I would like to leave the question
help
of
a
practical
drowning
moral
child
solipsism
in
and
the
its relation
river,
to
it's
rationality
yours
unresolved for the
to
time
help
being.
someone else who's in distress anywhere else in the
Non-existence is
world.
always better for the one who
We have an
ceased to
obligation
exist.
to help things,
This does
just
not
as we have
mean, however,
obligations
that the
not
dying
to hurt
process is
things.
good. Contrary, while the fear of death may automatically be regarded as irrational, the fear of dying is entirely justified,
We'll get
as the
into
very
identity
process of dying
nihilism
is
after
perhaps
this
one of
video.
the most unpleasant events for most beings who die consciously. The altruistic reason for continuing existence is the desire to minimize the suffering in the world. Getting rid of and weakening some of the illusions that lead to an irrational evaluation of the world is very often a long and painful process. The feeling of moral responsibility for the way the world works, or a very strong desire to stop harm, is a very good rational reason for continuing a negative existence if it can be morally profitable. It is certainly a noble choice, and often more difficult than choosing not to exist. I am not arguing that the altruistic reason is the most common or the most important motive for the continuation of existence by premortalists, both those declared and those presenting a premortalist worldview unaware of the rather sparsely used term. The irrational, natural, inborn, and perpetuated by society's will to live is, in my opinion, without a doubt the main reason for continuing to exist. The deep-seated optimism bias and existence bias seem to be completely inseparable from the views held by most of humanity regarding existence as something positive and worth living. Seeing life as worth continuing and enduring suffering, even though it is ultimately finite and pointless, is a simple and brilliant evolutionary mechanism for ensuring survival. But survival is not and has never been the most important goal of sentient minds. Survival is the goal of the program that controls living organisms, the only unconscious function of the program. In the case of biological terrestrial life, it is DNA, is to prolong its own existence. Mind is merely a tool programmed by genetics and psychology to facilitate the survival of the program. Although the mind's instrumental goal is also to prolong being, the primary goal is to be less dissatisfied, less deprived, to fulfill emerging needs and desires, which temporarily reduces the gradient of dissatisfaction. It is not in the interest of the
Fucking
sentient
hell,
mind in such an
mosquito
assumption to
was
continue
biting
to
the fuck out of
exist,
my leg
but
last
only to
night.
eliminate the gradient of unfulfilled needs,
Itchy ass
thus
leg.
reducing unmet needs to zero. In fact, the desire to live is inscribed in the human psyche, where intelligence and rationality are also only a tool for the realization of desires to reduce unfulfillment. Regardless of the rationality of the motive, the lack of a strong, irresistible desire to die as soon as possible does not in any way interfere with the recognition of the rationality of premortalism. The human mind is not, was not intended to be, and never was fully rational, and and since it has evolved as a means of facilitating survival, its effective creations must be compatible with this purpose to propagate. If full rationality does not ensure the program's survival, it is automatically disqualified as a mechanism useless for the program. Bounded rationality, with an overwhelming number of cognitive biases and defense mechanisms, is much more effective machinery. Knowledge of such a state of affairs is usually unable to create a need or a desire for death to a degree that would allow it to be realized. Emotional dependencies and addictions are what direct the mind to the greatest extent, usually making it difficult, and often impossible, to make rational decisions. Phenomena with enormous emotional baggage, like death, are usually those that are most difficult to approach in a rational manner, and the mere questioning of some unwritten views may expose you to social exclusion or cause remorse. The decision to end own existence is also psychologically extremely difficult. Even though the amount of suffering prevented is usually less than that caused, the perception of suffering directly related to our death, felt by loved ones, is for some reason a sufficient argument to continue even a hopeless existence. Relative pleasure in life is another such reason. Even in the case of premortalists, it causes procrastination of death. The lack of safe, non-severe, and non-threatening means available is another important aspect. The right to die, the right to cease existence, is not widely recognized. Only a handful of countries and states make it possible to commit assisted suicide, and only in the most severe cases. There are no universal, professional ways to die a graceful death, but there is tragedy, brutality, and the danger of becoming disabled. The fact that this is a taboo subject discourages large-scale discussion of such issues. I am the only premortalist known to me who sees another reason as relevant, and so far it seems to me non-existent in the wider debate. In practice, premortalism seems to presuppose an annihilationist interpretation of death, as it seems to be supported by physicalism. Death is understood as the annihilation of the mind, eternal and irreversible, the result of which is the state of non-existence, or rather the absence of any state. An alternative interpretation is not widely known, and is rarely presented outside of religious dogma. While dismissing religious bias as absurd, at least two other interpretations seem compatible with physicalism. The simulation hypothesis may make the understanding of death as an exit from the simulation worth considering. However, the gradient of desires still seems to be indispensable, regardless of whether we do exist in a virtual or non-virtual world. Another death, absolute death, can occur after exiting the simulation, so abandoning the state of existence is still possible. The second, no less compatible with physicalism, but the more exotic scenario, is the concept of multiverse immortality, both in the form of quantum immortality and big world immortality. After adopting a few assumptions, such as modal realism and copy-friendly theory of identity, the annihilation of subjectively continued experience becomes absolutely impossible. In such a scenario, the technological reduction of desires to a minimum in virtual worlds may be the only long-term solution. Achieving the ultimate indifference via future technology in the case of multiverse immortality is a topic for more attention. Premortalism, therefore, the recognition of non-existence as preferred over any state of existence, is still a rational view, even if non-existence is not possible. This approach will not be discussed in greater detail here. This material represents, in a highly non-exhaustive manner, my approach and understanding of the philosophy of
Well, here's the thing. If Benatar doesn't accidentally want to become like, Charles Manson or anything, so he's just really careful about his language. He's not necessarily pretentious. He just doesn't want to be labeled a promortalist. Yeah, go for it. It's called, it's by Cosmic Ethelist, right here. He has 262 subscribers, and it's called On Premortalism.
Hello YouTube. Today we're going to look at nihilism. Now, there are many different kinds of nihilism, but nihilism in the context of personal identity is the view that there simply is no personal identity over time. There are no selves, there are no people. Nobody.
What? Imagine accidentally becoming Charles Manson. Yeah, that'd be crazy. I don't understand what the problem with vegan person is. Someone who likes eating meat. Problem is, if you like eating meat, then you better be getting it from the natural world, otherwise you're bringing things into existence to suffer and die for no reason, which is not cool. So, we can get into that if you really want to. Subscribe to the channel. In the future, we're going to be talking about veganism more. We'll get into the deets. We'll get into the hard details of why it's wrong to consume animal produce. Not meat necessarily, but animal produce. At you, my friend.
Is speaking the words on this video. Nobody is watching and listening. Obviously, there is a human organism currently speaking, and presumably in your room right now, there is a human organism listening. The point of nihilism is that, well, if we look at these photographs, we would say that this person is the same as this person. These are photos of the person Jerry Garcia at different times. So, in virtue of what, are they both the same? That's the question of this series. The nihilist says they're not the same. There is no enduring self that persists from an earlier time to a later time. Obviously, this is a very radical claim. Now, this kind of view has a long history in Asian and Buddhist philosophical traditions, but in modern Western philosophy, the most notable expression of nihilism comes from David Hume's bundle theory. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Hume in this video. Now, I do need to say that what I'm presenting here may not be exactly Hume's theory. There are different ways of interpreting Hume, so we're going to use Hume's ideas to sort of develop a nihilist theory. Just bear in mind that when I attribute this theory to Hume, this is quite contentious. Right, so it's worth distinguishing two different ideas relating to personal identity, which so far in this series we've conflated. First of all, we can define what's called synchronic identity. At any particular moment, you are experiencing a number of different things. You are feeling various things going on in your body. You can see things, you can hear things, you might be undergoing certain emotions. Now, notice that these various states are all in some sense connected. It's not simply that in this room at the moment, there is a feeling of hunger, and there is a visual perception of a computer screen, and there is an emotional feeling of contentment. What we would say instead is, Kane is hungry. Kane visually perceives the computer screen, and Kane feels emotionally content. These feelings and perceptions are all in some sense mine, and they are all experienced by me, so they are unified in that sense. So synchronic identity is what gives the unity and connectedness to our psychological lives. You don't just have sort of mental states floating free in the world. Mental states are always experienced by a particular thing, a particular person. Even very different mental states are unified in virtue of being experienced by one thing. So that the feeling of hunger is a very different kind of state to the visual perception of a computer screen, but the hunger and the perception are sort of unified in the sense that they're both currently being experienced by one thing. Diachronic identity, on the other hand, is persistence over time. This is a sense in which we say that I am the same person now as I was 5 years ago, even though I might have changed in various ways. This is a sense in which we say that of those two photos of Jerry Garcia, that that the man in the one photo is the same as the man in the other photo. And this is what we've been focusing on in this series. But notice that the question of diachronic identity is dependent on the question of synchronic identity, because to ask whether and in what sense I persist over time, that implies that there is a person who might or might not persist. It implies that there is a self, there's a me, and this self is what is referred to by the name Kane Baker, and that's what either persists or does not persist. So I hope that distinction is clear. Now, Hume, at least on the interpretation we're taking in this video, denies both kinds of identity.
Identity
Hume
nihilism.
argues, first of all, that
We
there
don't
is
live
no
at
identity
all.
over time. Strictly speaking, no object can undergo change. Any
Constantly
alteration
dying,
to a person,
my
however
friend.
slight, simply destroys that person and replaces it with a new one. So you do not persist through any kind of change. Perhaps more radically, Hume argues that there is no underlying substance that, as it were, ties all our mental states together into a singular whole.
Human space.
When I say that, for instance, I am hungry and I perceive the computer screen, this is, in a sense, an illusion. There is no thing that is the bearer of the hunger and the perception. So, in fact, the very question, do I persist through time, is incoherent, because there is no I, in the sense of something that could persist. So, I mean, we'll look at Hume's arguments a bit more, and that should make his views here clearer. As always with Hume, we have to begin with empiricism. Hume was a committed empiricist, one of the major figures in empiricist philosophy. Now, to put it simply, empiricism claims that all knowledge derives from our sense perception. All of our concepts and our ideas have their origin in our experience of the world. Hume arrives at this view through his theory of the mind. I'm going to be quite brief here. There's a lot of literature you can find online if you want more detail. So Hume holds that our minds contain impressions and ideas. Impressions are divided into two kinds. First, there are impressions of sensation, and these are just the deliverances of the senses. When you hear a noise or see a color or taste a particular food, these are all impressions of sensation. The
Indeed,
impressions of
Spirit
sensation
Oyster.
are our link to
Indeed.
the external world. Second, there are impressions of reflection. These are the impressions we have of our own minds. So when we feel desires or emotions or volitions, I mean, we don't just have sensory experiences, right? There's also a lot of things kind of going on inside our own minds. There's not just things in the external world. There's also a kind of internal world. And so when we introspect and we attend to what our minds are doing, we have impressions of reflection. When I sort of feel, when I attend to the feeling of an emotion or I feel a particular desire, that's an impression of reflection. Ideas are faint copies of impressions. When you put your hand on a hot stove, this produces an impression of pain. Now, later, that pain might be gone, but you can remember that pain. You have an idea of the pain. So that the memory of the pain is an idea. It's a kind of faint copy of the impression. It has some of the qualities of the impression, but obviously it's much less intense and vivid. When you remember pain, it doesn't sort of hurt you like the original impression of the pain
No,
did.
not yet.
But it still has some of the qualities of the original impression. Similarly, if you experience an intense fear, well, that feeling of fear is an impression, and later you can remember the fear, so that's an idea of fear. Or when you see a dog, right, later you can remember what the dog looked like, and then you have an idea.
Do I feed my cat a vegan diet? No, I do not yet. A vegan diet. One of the viewers is asking that, and I'm like, well, actually, some of them actually have more protein than real. Hmm. You feed your cat mice, fish, and meat. Well, good for you, but when it comes down to it, you don't need to. So, it's not animal abuse. It's called modern science home slice. If you look up the natural sciences, just like you're basically sounding like a flat earther right now. Just like, oh, don't you know when you look across the ocean, it's flat. Everybody knows that. Yeah, people also say people can't live on a vegan diet too, my dude. So I don't really see your point. You can't just be like, oh, it's abuse, because one, you can easily sustain a vegan diet as a human, and two, you can do the same for your pets. So It's pretty cool, but nowadays we have things called labs, and we can make artificial meat. You can also make artificial proteins for your cat. It's pretty cool. Cats need Turing, which has to be an animal-based. Fun. I know that, Mr. Anti-List Informant. I know cats need Turing, but guess what? Turing also is not always animal-based. You can make Turing vegan. You silly little goober. Cats can't convert plant-based Turing, says who? You? Because most things I've heard say otherwise. It's Turing. I don't trust this website. This website's sketch. But maybe not. Who knows? I don't trust anything that says $106 and then goes to $6. Dude, I literally eat beans. As soon as the economy collapses, all of you fake vegans return to your natural diet. Dude, I literally eat beans. Like my diet consists of eating beans, basically. And it doesn't matter if the economy collapses, my diet's gonna stay the same. So fuck you.
I feed him a vegan diet, and I know a lot of people
And don't work it, I guess. I don't know. Stop complaining to me about it. I don't care.
Even if you get 2 demos a day, that's only 10 a week.
And then you need to have at least 3. You're supposed to get 5 every 2 days.
Which is kind of ass. It's a lot. Because you have to knock on all these people's houses. It's not even guaranteed half the days you knock. Like literally, it's mostly about knocking on people's doors.
Which is like people these days don't want to answer the door.
Yeah, people don't even want to answer the door, and if they do, they're like, "Fuck you," most of the time, especially if you're young.
Anyways.
So I'm thinking about calling him and being like, "Yo, I have demos to do, but I'm just gonna work on my own today." And then I just walk up and down our
I
hill
think I'm just
and
gonna
next to us and knock on all the doors and be like, "Yo, you need a Kirby."
watch this video.
freak out when I say that, but it's fine. You can feed a cat a vegan diet. There are specially formulated cat foods that have all the amino acids, micronutrients, vitamins and minerals that cats need. They're specially formulated, and they're vegan formulas. So it is important to make sure if you're vegan and you want to live an ethical lifestyle that you don't contribute to animal abuse, and that means not buying animal sourced foods for yourself, and also not buying animal sourced foods for your companion animals like cats, dogs. It makes no sense to kill countless other animals just to feed one animal, so that's why obviously I feed my cat and my dog and all my animals, even my horse, a vegan diet. So I just received this big package in the mail containing all of the food and treats that I give my cat so he can stay happy and healthy on a vegan diet. And I received all of this from Vigor. Vigor is an online retailer where they have a wide selection of vegan cat and dog foods and other accessories. So if you are interested in feeding your cat or dog a vegan diet, check out Vigor, and if you use the link in the description and use the discount code, you can get 10% off of any order. So first off, the kibble that we feed our cat is Evolution Gourmet Max Life Vegan Cat Food. So I will show it real close to the camera so you can see the package there. So the main reason we feed this food to our cat is because he is a young cat, and this is the only food, the Evolution brand is the only food that is suitable for young cats. So it's suitable for
Because I'm a promortalist, and that's why. And also because a bunch of people were like, "Yo, please crush bugs for me," and I'm like, "Okay, sure." So people requested it, so I did it. Basically, that's what it came down to. People asked, so I delivered.
I was like, it's $2,699. I said, for you, I can be $1,499.
kittens and adults. Prismo is still under a year old, so we feed him this to make sure that he's getting all the nutrition he needs. And again, This contains all the vitamins, minerals, micronutrients, amino acids he needs. You can check the nutrition information on the back. You can also, check the website. It's not deficient just because it's vegan. That doesn't mean it's missing nutrients. It's modern times. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids can be added to food, so everything's good. I also don't know why.
Is this guy actually? No, you're actually stupid, Anthony. Listen for me.
There's this weird stigma about vegan food for cats and dogs not being tasty, like they won't want to eat it. Like to cats, this tastes totally fine. I don't know how it tastes for humans. I've never tried it. Try one pellet.
Anything for views, am I right?
I don't know if you've ever tasted normal cat and dog food, that has meat and stuff in it. Back in the day I was stupid. I tried it. Tastes terrible. You want to like throw up. This cats just find it just fine. They'll eat it. Prismo always meows to get this food. So it's not like you'll really have any unique troubles like getting your cat or dog to like eat a vegan diet. No, if you give them this kibble, they'll eat it. So yeah, highly recommend this. And by the way, the reason this bag looks like
Just saying, if we could get that off on the other thing, I'd probably buy it. I bought that, but I'm not having anything to do with it. I bought the last one. I think I was the only one home at that time.
Vegan gains his fat. Hey man, you're kind of right. I'm not gonna deny that. I don't like vegan gains. He's a hypocrite. Brent looks like he's about to snap. It's because my parents and my brother are being annoying, and reading the chat is being idiotic. So yes, about to snap, Apple.
Basement smelled like THC yesterday because of Brent. I literally poured the water on and we left it on it and heated up the carpet and it got some of it out. As you can see white in it, but it's still bad. It still smells like THC.
That's the thing, like that carpet's already run, so
Fuck off.
I'm
Screw
not
it,
talking
mister.
about keeping it clean. I'm talking about I have allergies. If you
Colin,
understand
why are
that,
you here?
Shut the fuck up.
Just
Get
to
the fuck
suffer?
out of here. Nobody asked for you to live stream or breathe every single fucking day of your life or to talk to me.
don't talk to me.
No, I didn't fucking ask for him to be in this.
You're the second born. In the biblical times, you would just be like tossed to the side like rubbish.
Bible you don't even believe in. Get your fucking bullshit ass out of here, bro.
Yeah.
Fucking lies in your arguments. So yeah, don't fucking mention.
Yeah, well, 70% of the world thinks you should just be shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of here.
Thinks I should shut the fuck up.
Yeah, 'cause you're the second born, bro.
You should kill yourself then if I should shut the fuck up. Because I don't see where you're getting your fucking.
Hey, bro,
bullshit.
you're the second born. You're the second born, bro. Every single religion in the world basically thinks the second born should be quiet.
Kill yourself. Kill yourself.
Should-
Kill yourself. Nobody loves
Colin,
you. Kill yourself.
90% of the world
Your
thinks
friends
you're
are all
useless.
suicide emo bitches who are all gonna
And
kill themselves too, just like you. Go fuck yourself.
Says,
Kill yourself.
Colin, one of your best friends
Kill
literally like almost
yourself.
OD'd in your arms, and I
Guess
really
what,
wish you
Brandon?
would
Is he
have.
my best friend? No, we all
I
have
know,
it.
because all your friends aren't your best friends. None of your friends are real.
Grant, we already know that philosophy is all fake. You all have friends for
It's
a
okay,
reason.
Colin.
Now,
It's
obviously,
okay,
you have
Colin.
friends 'cause you're depressed as fuck and you want to feel
I have
loved. I don't
friends
need friends
because
to
I'm
feel
part of a
loved.
social species. You have
Yeah,
fake
Grant,
people.
That's why I said you're a social species. You're admitting to it. I don't need people to be social. I go to the gym. I don't even.
It's
consider them
okay,
my friends.
Colin.
So
I know
guess
you.
what? I don't use
use every single day of my week to fulfill my happiness by bullshitting with my friends. I actually go out every single day by myself, and I usually don't talk to my friends.
It's because you don't have friends, Colin. You've never had friends.
Your friends are all fucking losers, just like you. Kill yourself. Please
No,
do.
actually, my
Please
friends,
do.
you see, they're actually
Please
just
kill
people.
yourself. You have no use in this fucking world. No use.
Cole, you guys need to get away from each other. It's not
What?
okay.
This is what he did to me years ago. Why can't I do it to him?
Because guess what, Colin? You
Fucking kill yourself. You're
you
the most
still should have,
useless goddamn
Colin.
person. You're more useless than a fucking drug dealer.
Speak for yourself, Colin. Speak. The drug dealers thinks that the people are more useless than him.
You're the most fucking useless.
The drug dealer thinks the people are more useless than him. Wow. The perspective of the white household. It is truly the white household. See, look at that. You just see like a little psycho white kid over here being like, ah, shoot yourself. Get the drum migs. Glickety glock. I'm black on the inside. I'm Colin Gill. Yeah, Colin, we all know you wish you were black, but you're not, so you're depressed. It's okay. Go work out at the gym and be sad. This is gonna go viral for the craziest freak out. Yeah, man, I know, right? It's just me just trying to just do my thing and be like, yo, Colin, stop yelling every single second in the fucking world. And he's just like, I'm allowed to yell wherever I want. Are y'all gonna make this normal? Oh, 100%. I'm just literally just trying to do my thing. I was set up here and he just decided to start arguing with my parents. Colin, go.
I don't think anybody wants to hear your bullshit.
And no one wants you to argue in the fucking living room either, Colin.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say. Nobody
Then
wants to
don't
hear your
argue.
goddamn
Colin,
conversation, so move it somewhere
you
else. Move it
were.
somewhere else. Nobody
Mother
wants to
doesn't
hear
give
your
a fucking
bullshit.
shit so long as I'm talking at a normal volume.
Upstairs all the time. I don't want to hear you fucking rant about stupid bullshit. Like, I don't want to hear you talk about Christianity and the way you believe in it to convince other people, but you will instantly stop believing in that.
I literally don't, but you're an idiot, so shut the fuck up, Colin.
Kill yourself, dude. You
Can I shove him down the stairs and see if his neck breaks, Mom? Are you sure? I mean, we can just, if you can be my alibi, you can say that it didn't happen. Everybody in the live stream, I can just delete it, you know? Just kidding. Colin, you sound like you're about to cry. You should probably be quiet before you guys start to choke up a little bit. Yeah, I know, but it's fun to watch him just. I have more to live for than Muscle Boy over here with 0 friends. You just literally inflate your ego till you explode someday, and I'm just waiting for the day so I can just watch in the glory. Okay. Fine. One reason why I should live, so I can watch you blast your own brains out someday. Fine. I will be quiet. The American household? Yeah, this is the American household. Everyone for themselves, no unity. Hey, I like my parents, they're decent human beings. My brother, he's just a piece of scum. Can I kill him? Is that allowed? Honestly, please. You can alibi it. Just kidding. It's a joke, Mom. I'm literally live streaming right now, but. Well, Colin's hilarious. His personality's always been funny. He's a joke. Well, the Hunger Games begin. Vegans. Yeah, right. Does Colin know why I went to the hospital? I don't know if Colin knows. Don't really care if Colin knows. When Colin comes down to it, let's not talk about Colin anymore. Okay, we're done. We're done talking about the imbecile. Okay, my mom doesn't want us to talk about him anymore in case he hears. Colin hasn't got married. Colin's talking about marriage. Colin's really wishing he's gotten married, but okay. Okay, fine. Fine, I'm done. It's hard not to narrate about him when he's yelling across the entire house. You guys can't hear it, but he's just yelling across the entire house like a madman. Yeah, Oyster, do you think it's alright to have kids? Do you think it's alright to have people like my brother in the world? I mean, little literal feces, like people like he really believes that like it's like Nike is doing a good thing to exploit children and make them work in literal slave conditions just so you can have cheap shoes worth like $300 in the United States. They costed like $10 to manufacture, and he thinks that it's actually a good thing, an objective good thing, because that mischievous Colin's a piece of shit. Colin thinks it's a good thing to exploit children in the third world for cheap products in the first world countries. He literally is a capitalist shill who wants the world to suffer just so he can look clout and look cool. My brother's a piece of shit, and I really hope he gets shot. So, frankly, if anybody here wants to do the world a favor, promortalism and all, address, not, and I'm just kidding, I'm not going to say our address, but when it comes down to it, if you ever do find him, please, I mean, do the world a favor. I can be your alibi. You can be hanging out. We're good friends now. You hear that? We're good friends. We were just hitting up the bars across Green Bay or some shit, and you know, just coincidentally, Colin just died the same night that we happened to be hanging out for the first time ever. Why does he think that? My brother is a piece of shit capitalist fuckface who only cares about himself and his ego. He basically thinks that nothing matters besides being happy, and when it comes to being happy, he means himself being happy. If Colin would get happiness from crushing a baby's skull live on TV, he would do it. Debate him? Shut the fuck up, you prophet. There's no debating Colin. Colin just talks over you and yells. Okay, Colin, go OD. Go pop some lead in your head. Maybe some pills so you don't have to pay the bills. Hey, man, if he wants to tell me to kill himself, I'm going to do it back to him. I will do it back, though, because maybe he'll actually do it. Apparently, I can't do it, but he's so about it. Colin, if you're all about success.
Tell the people that are overdosing every single second of their life. Tell the people that are like that. Tell the people that shot someone and killed someone.
Colin, I've only failed once. How many times have you failed at killing yourself, Mr. Failure over here? Maybe you should try to succeed once. Maybe, huh? Well, apparently, you're the one bringing up shit from like 5 years ago. You're the one bringing up shit from 5 years ago, bro. I'm literally putting out more use in the world every single day of my life. I put out more use in 1 hour of my life than you have ever in your fucking life and ever will at this rate. Oh yeah, 1 hour of my life more purpose than you will ever have in your entire existence. Oh, oh yeah. Here's the thing, Colin. Being a good person is not that hard. You're just a piece of shit, Colin. Colin, Colin, it's not that hard to be a good person. You're just a piece of fucking low life shit. It's really not that hard. It's really not that hard. No, 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 Colin. It's really not that hard to be a good person. You are literally, I can do more in an hour of my life than you ever will in your entire life, bro. 1 hour of my life more than you will in ever in your entire life. Hate this kid. Just trying to have a live stream and he's just over here talking about capitalism and how much money he makes and bullshit. I make more money than you. You're a loser, and all your friends are losers because they don't have stockbroker connections. I'm Colin Gill. Everybody who doesn't know a stockbroker and hasn't exploited someone for sex is a loser. I'm Colin Gill. I like to manipulate people for nudes. I'm Colin Gill. Fuck you, Colin. Yeah, Colin, go to the gym. And maybe you stop arguing and look for your phone.
Go kill yourself like you wanted to.
Stop.
Go do it. Go do it
Go.
right now. Go.
If I were to kill myself, I'd take you out first. So all it would take is a knife in your sleep, home slice. It would really be that easy. Faster, stronger, the next generation of the human race. Colin, shut the fuck up, Colin. Oh, you're no threat to me, no. Yo, guys, you guys are black, right? My brother wants to suck your dick, by the way. A couple of days ago, my brother said he wants to fuck femboys, and he's also said that he wants to get fucked by really muscular black men. So when it comes down, really his type. So he basically likes femboys and big beefy black men. So if anybody here wants to get to dick down a little bitch, my brother is up in their application. So. So you're ignoring what I'm saying and listen. You acknowledged the other part that I added, though. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to me or are you talking to? Do you acknowledge that there's a guaranteed individual agreement standard as good as long as people support people's rights to procreate? Makes it right. Oh, you guys are just talking to each other. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm still hosting a platform of intellectual discussion as this absolute fucking foonery is going on in the background. At least it's for you guys' entertainment. You know, you guys get to be entertained by this fucking buffoonery of this household, and I get to host some intellectual conversations. You keep talking to Oyster Man, and just be entertained by the fact that I absolutely hate my brother and hate him with a burning fucking passion, and really wish my parents weren't such fucking simps for him. Get out of here, Colin. The only reason you're not in prison because parents lied for you. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck. Sounds like all they might need to say is that you are a fucking piece of shit, horrible human being, and guess what? You would not be here right now. You would be in prison. So good fucking luck. sorry, kind of not sorry. Yeah, I know. He's coming back for another round. Oh my god. I'm surprised there hasn't been any swing yet. I'm holding a laptop, so I'm not gonna swing. And when it comes down to it, I'm whatever you want to call it, a Machiavellian. I understand that fighting someone physically, especially above the age of 18, is not good for my image, and especially when I'm live streaming. And two, my brother is actually stronger than me nowadays, just because he, as I said, he's a big old beef boy. He has like no life whatsoever. He just goes to the gym and works out, and has a really shriveled up small ego. So when it comes down to it, the only thing bigger than my brother's grandiose, vulnerable narcissism combination is his muscles, which are somehow bigger than his ego. So I don't want to exactly get into physical altercation with that little fucking dweeb. I can just win him with words, and I will, because he's an idiot. So it doesn't really take much to win him with words. You can just kind of keep being calm like this, and whenever he starts talking some mad shit across the room, you get a little bit loud and you whack at him, and then he'll come over into the room again, and then you just get back to being calm, and you start repeating your little narrative at him, and slowly take down his ego one little step at a time until he just kind of crumbles and walks away and hates himself for a bit. Really, it only hurts himself. Because me, I don't give a flying fuck. Him, he'll dwell on this for hours, on hours and hours, and he'll hate about it and be festering in his little mind. So, really, he just hurts himself. It's quite hilarious, really. Isn't that right, Marco? Colin's a little clown. He's a funny man. He's the circus of the house, the clown of the circus. You can't have a circus without Colin. But yeah, I'm gonna take the advice of Ilias, and I'm just gonna sit outside, and hopefully my brother will stop fucking walking out here and stop yelling across the entire fucking place. I'm gonna be Celebrity Deathmatch. Yeah. Hey man, I have more subscribers than my brother, so who's the real loser? Not me. I have more subscribers than him, so I'm not the one that said the N-word in a fight just because it makes him feel cool to say the N-word. So, hey man, I think I'm the real winner here because when it comes down to it, I don't resort to derogatory slurs of calling people the N-word, and I don't resort to calling people loser. What's his channel? I don't know what my brother's channel is, but he only has like fucking like 30 subscribers or some shit. So he has like fucking nothing. But he is like the biggest ego on the planet. So I'll figure it out for you though at some point, just so you can troll him, because you're a really nice troll. I appreciate you. I can handle your trolling this, so I love you, Deprofit, but fucking magnets, how do they work? But yeah, you could troll the fuck out of this channel. It'd be hilarious. So you can call him things that will offend him that are not derogatory in nature, and then maybe he'll call you the N-word and you can cancel him. Maybe they can still cancel him from the fact that you said the N-word on my live stream here. Bro, everyone here is a troll. No, that's fair, but at least you guys, Spirit Oyster, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you're a troll, but if you're not a troll, it's just your schizophrenia. But honestly, man, I really hope you're trolling sometimes. But yeah, I'm a troll, so yeah, I mean, I have a serious conversation half the time. I don't even give a fuck. If I was serious, I would have like ended the live stream into my brother came upstairs and started arguing. Especially me. Yeah, especially me. I'm a big troll. If I was actually serious about my channel and any of the content on this channel, I would have ended my live stream the instant my brother came upstairs and started bitching to my mom. That would have been like, now we're gonna have a fight going on in the house again. That's gonna last like a minimum of a half an hour, even if I don't get involved. So, Christ, and I should just end the stream. But I don't do that. I keep the show going. We keep the rolling. We keep that shit going. Howdy. Exactly, the show must go on. My brother wants to practice some punches on me, but if he does, yeah, he's scared of me. One. My brother's scared of me for one, so when it comes down to it, and two, he's also a little bit of a bitch, and three, he's just, yeah, he's just a little bit of a bitch. And you can add that on for extra emphasis to my brother's a bitch. So. I'm just saying, no one goes to the gym for 6 hours a day if they have any level of ego. Nothing, I'm just talking shit about Colin. That's okay. I'm not talking to you anyways, it's okay. I'm comment Colin, you said that. Go for it. Hope this blows up and then I can act like I don't know nobody. Just kidding. No, like I have the shark teeth. Eat some peaches? Yo, I kinda wanna eat some peaches too.
Grant, are you okay? I don't know. It's a lot. I know you know that you ignore him, but I don't appreciate saying it back to him either. You know, because obviously he has issues too, and he acts like he's.
I don't know that, but I don't really care about what happens to him, so.
I get it. I get it.
Generally a really bad person, so. In my mind, they don't really care what happens. You guys do because you're his mother, but frankly.
I just don't need you doing it back. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
see, one thing on isn't my perspective is if you're gonna critique someone, don't bring the friends into it and say that they're also losers, because unless all of my friends are also losers, which they are, then how immediately just makes himself look like an idiot. It's like, oh no, your critique is just trying to hurt my feelings. It's not gonna place what seriousness reaction is that. So
Well, that's good that you're able to understand that. That's the same way that I don't take it seriously when he cuts me down because he cuts down pretty much every single thing that I ever do.
pretty much.
And
So
basically,
it can balance
that
it.
one thing that I did right. So you can't take anything like seriously. You know what I mean?
Essentially, he's just kind of reflecting on himself.
Yeah.
Which is
But I know it's
fucking
not.
for me, it's just really fucking annoying. So.
Have you heard this song where Bowser sings? No, I haven't. If you eat peaches, you're gay. I'm pretty sure there's a movie that has that going on. So you're not wrong.
Then I brought her over there because we're over Bob. And then she's seeing him like.
No, it wasn't as hot today at work.
Brianna.
Hmm. Oh, well, if you're talking about it's midnight here, oh, well, if you're talking about that, the answer is you can find that out yourself, Mr. Writer. That's my answer. But later, folks, as well. Later to Spirit Oyster. He says later, folks. Good night, my dude. Is it off?
I don't know. I didn't know. Apparently, yeah, I think it's off because he must have. Oh, I don't know. Just because Fran has the door open. It's not. It's a true story. I'm gonna turn it back on. I don't want it off. And then just shut the patio door.
That makes sense. Why no. That makes sense why it wasn't cold. What?
Close that door.
I want to go and grab an extension cord. Yeah, whatever. What happened? No. Wait, what? What do you mean, bro? L. Tyler's what happened? No. Nothing happened, really. I mean, we've been just live streaming talking about ethics. My brother came upstairs and he was just like, I started arguing with my mom, and then I was just like, shut the fuck up. And then he was just like, kill yourself. And then I was just like, okay, says you, lol. Thought you were leaving? No, that was my brother who was leaving. My brother was leaving, and he kept on yelling, so I was telling him to get the fuck out. So. I went inside for a little bit because I was gonna make dinner, but then my brother started arguing, and now I'm no longer hungry. Now I'm just angry. So now I'm just fueled on the power of anger. What the fuck is your conversation? Yo, love the dress shirt, looking fly. You need to get along with my brother. No, my brother's a piece of shit who actually genuinely likes the fact that people are dying in third world countries and fucking slave work factories just so that he can have cheap Nike shoes. He thinks that's a good thing. So my brother can go fuck himself with a steel rod until he fucking prolapses and dies. I hate my brother with a burning passion. He's a piece of shit. So most people who are aware of my brother and my brother thinks hate my brother and everything about him. So yeah, my brother literally has to not be himself in order to be liked. And himself barely even exists. He's just a piece of shit. So he's literally just like a capitalist incarnate. What would be his way of saying? He would say it's a good thing because it makes him happy to have cheap shoes, and so therefore it's a good thing. That's it. That's it's that simple for him. He thinks nothing matters besides himself, and so essentially whatever makes him happy is good. And so the fact he wants cheap Nikes and whatever he wants cheap Nikes in his mind means therefore exploiting people to have cheap Nikes. That's a good thing. Same with lithium batteries and anything else. Like he's just basically like, yeah, man, slave labor is a good thing. We shouldn't try to stop that at all because trying to stop that means you're just trying to stop having efficient goods for sale at cheap prices. So my brother's a piece of shit. I generally wish that someone would cap him. It would make the world a better place for him no longer to be here. He's not a vegan. He's not an ethicist. He's not even a good person. He sexually harasses women. Uh, Stuff like that. He's a piece of shit. My brother is a piece of crap. He's literally just like one of the worst human beings. Like you could, this man probably looks up to Andrew Tate. And this man probably like would suck Andrew Tate's toes. So yeah. So fuck my brother. He's a piece of shit. I can't hear, so I got so mad at this service. Fair enough. Do you guys at least find the argument enjoyable? Do you all at least find it appealing to the ears to hear me get angry a little bit and see my brother just be an absolute fucking buffoon? It was, because from my perspective, it was mild. It was slightly entertaining, more annoying than overall. Overall, it's more annoying than anything. Hey man, that's understandable. Sometimes you just gotta snap at a bitch. Just kidding. But got this girl I'm buying from coupons. She didn't figure out how to change privacy settings, and she annoyed me, so I kind of snapped at her. Hey man, I mean, try not to snap at people. It's a little rude, but I mean, at least you realize it's a bad thing to do, and you want to change your behavior, so that's a good thing. Wanting to change your hate behavior and not be a person who is rude or uptight or whatever is always a good thing. Wanting to improve is positive. Girl you're buying. I think he meant to say girl he's buying coupons from, like, as in like one of those people that go around like selling coupons for like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or like fucking some of a business or whatever. So I don't really know. Coupon for human trafficking. Where do you get those? Nah, you slay queen. Low key though, dress shirts on women, 10 out of 10. Like, it is honestly a thing that should be more trendy than it is. It's sad. It's... Nah, you slay queen. Not saying something about the delivery service like I've been taking them forever. It's like, am I flirty? Sometimes I'm flirty, guys. Sometimes I'm flirty. She acts like sometimes I'm saying understandable though. Look at all those crabs. Dude, every time I need coupons, I can't fucking reach at her. It's like you change purposes today, so I can finally call. Ah, I got you. Not really, I don't got you, but that sounds annoying, my friend. Preparing yourself and then being like, bro, why you so stupid? Pasta fazooli. You know, I understand that. It'd be frustrating. Pasta fazooli. Let's see, what do I want to watch? Great Giant? No. Do I want to watch? No. Yeah, let's watch a classic. Would you ever dress drag? I've already dressed drag at the antenatalist informant. I've done that for Halloween many times. So, and I've done it for OnlyFans before too. Oh yeah, let's show you me and drag for the fun of it. Me and drag. Hell yeah, home slice. So yeah, man, I can do the drag. I'm straight again. You're welcome. I'm glad I cured you. So, praise Allah. Allah is good. Allah Akbar.
So we have this self-understanding that we evolved. Well, the point is you have to what you have to do with it is take it seriously. Okay, if you're gonna believe in evolution, if you're gonna concede the reality of evolution, yeah, it basically blows up the God theory. It blows up any kind of contrivances attached to that. So blow it all up and start from scratch and realize what we are. We're chemical machines, okay, that have been built over 4 billion years, and we've been tested in what can be called, quite accurately, a gladiator war, where the machines went into the battle, and if you won, your DNA replicated, and that's all it was a war. And as time evolved, that war became more complex. As the organisms evolve, they get more and more elaborate tools. So we have all these elaborate individual tools. And then it became gang warfare.
That cheat is not vegan, but
gangs of this, and
the cheat is
tribes
also
of
not a
that.
moral agent.
And then the tribe's genetics essentially starts evolving.
It's not bringing things into existence and then killing them. It's just killing things that have fucked.
Okay, there's
So
exploitation all over the
I'd
place.
say it's a
Talk about this
scrapitarian or negative
adaptation,
utilitarian,
niches, and
but
this
it's not a
balance
vegan.
crap. It's just a lie. Okay, there's winners and losers in disgracefully uneven proportions on this planet. You know, to sit there and glorify the mechanism of gladiator war. Okay, fight for no good reason. Kill 10 of your kind, or maybe 500 of the other sentient creatures. You know, fry them up in your pots and cook them. Evolution is a story, and it's not a good story. It's a story of a forced march. 4 billion years of little machines struggling to trip the other guy, to fuck the other guy over, to eat the other guy's guts. I mean, there's organisms all over this planet right now whose only mission is to dig a hole inside of you and to eat your fucking brains. I mean, don't talk to me about how balanced and brilliant and purposeful and niche-y all that crap is. That's not a legitimate niche. There obviously isn't any sensible, rational, logical reason to perpetuate gladiator war. No, there's no way you can make this the naked truth of evolution into a good story. It's a negative story, decidedly negative. The function is survival by any mechanism, any means possible. Whatever can happen, can happen. No umpires, no rules, just a blood sport, and for nothing. No, nothing in the end. Just a raised hand. I win, you die, and it's a crude and stupid game. Our intelligence only exists because it was a scheming tool, because it made us better at stealing star energy from other organisms. And that's the only reason why it exists. And it still remains its only function is to be used as a scheming tool to derive gratification or satisfaction of our selfish individual desires. And most of the human race is completely still owned by that nonsense. They still are more obedient to the notions of nepotism, family superiority, nationalism, racism, than they are devoted to any high-minded ideal of civilization, or decency, or justice, or fairness. Life is a sad and tragic story in nature,
I like
and
Cheetah.
humanity has done nothing to write a better chapter in the life book. We've disgraced our intelligence.
No, but a couple of my friends went to see The Flash, and I don't know if they said it was good or not, but
perverted it
I didn't see it.
to sick and depraved purposes. And it's all over our culture, all over our economic systems, all over our entertainment. We are American Idol at the core. We're just crapping. I'm ready to go on for the suffering forever. Explain, describe the horrible death that will meet. That will be the fate of most living sentient, hard, nasty, ugly road to that last breath. And it's on Carter on the Titanic, and the truth is written everywhere if they'll open their eyes and look at it, that they're on a boat that's going to sink. Just so obvious. I mean, really, people are so far from taking any responsibility for dealing with what reality is, and all for a stupid purpose. To make a machine that goes into an arena and fights with other machines. To simply say, I win, and then die. So it's...
We will change
sons
the
and
video
daughters
once it's
can fight
over.
the same
It is
thing.
sad because life is sad.
It's insidious.
Okay. Let's hopefully meat grinder. Let's get the sadness out of our system. If we're all sad for right now, then comparatively speaking, the rest of our days will be so
It's a
much better.
physical universe. The physical truths are right in front of you. Anytime you want to go look at it, you can look at it and see what reality's really doing. You can see what's happening in a slaughterhouse, manufactured in your head, and understand it. You can know what's happening in nature. You can understand the statistics. Well, if a sea turtle in its lifetime lays 10,000 eggs, and there's only going to be a replacement population, so that means just 2 survive out of 10,000, kill 9,998 children turtles, so we can have 2 little adults. And that's acceptable. Why not? Kids suck. Let's murder them in brutal, horrible ways. Let's peck them to death and disease them to death and have a shark bite their little legs off and all kinds of shit like that. Because we enjoy that. We think that's spectacular good sport. That's all you're doing. You're just being shark massagers, massaging the joint on the great white shark and saying, yeah, go baby, go. Go baby, go. Rip some more shit to pieces. You run from the truth. You think you're going to escape everything because you think you're fucking special. That you're not going to get die choking on your own vomit disease. You're going to get some more pleasant way to go. That's how you think it's going to end for you. Because you're delusional, hope-driven escapers of reality. That's it. There's nothing complicated.
That's fair.
Here. You
I
don't
mean,
need a Gary
I just
to say
drench
this. There's
myself
no
in
grand
it.
philosophy.
I'm just
be
constantly
honest.
drenching
Doesn't take
everybody
much effort
in
to be honest
anger,
for a second.
the
Just say,
rage,
what am I basically?
the pure
a
form of
conniving,
reality,
scheming,
the
gluttonous
truth.
whore of an asshole. Just want. Need. You can't just admit that and admit that's the only
We are need machines.
thing that's driving you is these silly ambitions, silly glorifications of your status as a human. I am a thinking thing. What fucking grand thoughts do you actually have? How many minutes of the day do you spend thinking anything grand or decent or consistent with the actual circumstance, which is the meat grinder's grind? finding right now.
Right this
Right
very
now,
second.
every second.
Every 30
Dudes,
seconds, a
every
human
minute.
kills
Snapped
themselves.
in the trap.
Every
The
30
disease
seconds.
starts infecting.
In this video
Go
alone,
blind. Yeah. Every
we've
second.
already had
This is going on.
4 people,
And you're
and
just
one's
doing your
tying a
tap
noose
dancing
right now.
bullshit. You are so embarrassing your intelligence. But yeah, you're too stupid to know it. The truth is dismally bleak that all of this pain, all of this has been going on for 300,
3,
400
2,
million
1. Another dead one.
years.
Another person died by a
Ouch.
suicide.
Gross torture has been endured. And this, you think you're winning. Oh, we have NASCAR and real kickboxing, and we have lots of...
I can do an
stupid-
anti-religious
we can watch
rant.
Donald Trump fire people. You're just so fucking spectacular. I mean, that's so worth all of the fucking suffering that has been endured on planet Earth. You're just such a magnificent tribute to the process of evolution. Dumbasses, just dumb little butt fucking retards. It's pitiful. People just have to make this simple concession that I'm addicted, I'm here, I want to live, but I don't need to force the game. I really don't. I'm not going to be winning in the future. Statistically, you're going to lose in the future. There's going to be more people being ground up by the industry than are going to be owning the industry. Tiny percentage of the human race that lives in grotesque comfort, while most of the human race lives in squalor and brutal, tyrannical... trying to think of a better word for work. I don't even want to call it work because some of it is so silly in the sense that the work is just so futile, picking rocks out of haystacks. And you're defending it. You fuckers. You can't say, okay, no mas. It's too messy, too expensive. Motherfucker, way too expensive. I'm not worth it. You're not worth it. You can't say that. Nobody is worth the price being paid. You can't even justify the price we impose on each other, the birth defects we impose, the elephant man. Can you imagine living that life of the elephant man? I mean, everybody sees him at the end, but imagine the years of brutality. Imagine the experience of watching your face tumorize and deform, and knowing that with every new day, your odds of ever having a life are going further and further away. Any hope of happiness is drifting away. And you can justify it. You can say, you're worth it. You're worth that price being paid. You think you're that fucking special. It's putrid. Like I said, you're an embarrassment to intelligence, not to be able to recognize what we're caught up in, and to pretend there's a god or there's a quantum singularity where everything will all go, and everything will be okay then. You'll have your cosmic orgasm, everything will be fine forever and ever. La, 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 la. You fall for that shit? And I'm supposed to do something other than mocking people? Mock the fact that I even have to say this to other human beings? That I have to sit there and explain to you? It's evolution. There's no God. There's no magical plan. There's no theory of, oh, it's all worth it because someday we'll sit in the clouds and play dominoes. It's laughable just how insipid the fairy tale is that you're living, the detachment from the reality. You're not winning. It's a big meat grinder. One way to win is to try to throw a monkey wrench, a fucking rock into the grinder and break it forever.
The video responds to some Lord Shadrach guy. Asked me a simple question in a video, so I figure I don't get a lot of videos just asking me a simple question, so what the hell, I'll answer it. But it's a weird question in a way, just because of context. I have done videos on this stuff, but I just asked why I'm an atheist, and yeah, the simple answer is because I'm not a theist. But it's really not that simple an answer when you think about it, because I can say now I can make a lot of arguments, about why I don't believe in God. Because now we have all this stuff. I mean, you have Darwin, you have Dawkins, you have all these kind of interesting arguments, and all the paradoxes. I mean, who would be God's God? Who invented God? Who made God? How'd that get created? I mean, God doesn't answer a lot of questions. There's a lot of arguments you can make, when you're an adult and you're articulate. But the fact is, I mean, I was always an atheist pretty much. I mean, I never really believed the story. I never really had any confidence in the God. I mean, I can remember being obliged to pray at night, and do the, now I lay me down to sleep, something to take, and God bless, blah, 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 blah. And, and I did it, but I didn't do it with any, the whole thing just seemed wacky. And so I guess that's where you have to go to is why did I never find the story compelling or believable? And It's like the Santa Claus story. I mean, I never believed there was a Santa Claus. I mean, it was just you're told this story and you kind of just know they're lying to you. You just know it's just too crazy because they can't answer any of the questions. You know, the well then why does and we don't even have a chimney, so how does, you know, and you don't get any good answers. Or you get some kind of silly answer like magic powers or whatever, and that just never fit in my head. I mean, you have to explain magic powers. You have to justify them somehow. I mean, Superman's more believable than Santa Claus, you know, and or for that matter, God. And then part of it was, you know, there was just nothing about religion that was appealing. I mean, nothing about how they defined God, how they described what God was about. That was at all interesting. I mean, God didn't seem to give a damn, number one. I mean, he wasn't playing any active role. You're told this story about these people that lived way the fuck over there in some desert. You know, the same people that people are calling all kinds of ugly names. You know, but they're the, you know, that's the sacred people of your God, you know, the religion they're trying to preach to you. And it's like, well, I mean, if those are the chosen ones, how come you're talking shit about them? You know, so I mean, even that little hypocrisy, you know, I remember that meaning something to me at a very young age. So, you know, we go back to like 5 years old or whatever the number is. You know, the first churching experiences. And there was nothing appealing about church. I mean, it was this horrible place you go to where these jackasses just, you know, drone on and people sing jackass songs. I mean, none of it was appealing. And the bottom line is that none of it had to do, I mean, none of it.
PMO addiction. What does that stand for? What does that stand for, by the way? I don't fucking know. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, what does that stand for, by the way? We're gonna go back to playing the video, but
There was no penis story. There was no like, and God created the
no
magic penis to make Adam happy or something like that. I mean, if there was some kind of
Where's
book of
the
penis in the
cock?
Bible, I mean, I might have gotten it, you know, because even at that age, I already knew where the center of my being was, you know, and if my soul existed somewhere, that's where it existed. And so none of it fit into anything I could relate to. It would just seem like it was like people were describing this alien planet, and that was it. Like, what the fuck would I want to go there? Doesn't have any of the stuff
I'm back at it again. Okay. Porn masturbation thing. Well, oh yeah, what's so bad about viewing pornography? That's a bad one to. I agree with you, Prophet. What's so bad about viewing pornography that we have to be so concerned about is something that's potentially killing everything in our lives? I don't really think it's killing everything in our lives. I mean, I can jerk off just fine to my imagination or porn, either one. Uh, but either way, I don't think it's destroying my life per se. Hmm. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong about that. I'm just curious what your take is on porn addiction. I mean, if it's, I don't really view it as inherently wrong. I'm not about semen retention or anything like that. It's about porn addiction. Mm, is it affecting your life? Like, what do you mean? Like, how is it affecting your life, per se, or how has it affected your life if it has in the past, for example, like negatively? Though I do think it's good to be disciplined and not have to rely on masturbation of sorts to feel relief from stress. It's good to be able to meditate or just to do other things. But as long as you're not hurting someone else, I mean, I don't really see a problem with doing something. I mean, it's kind of a waste of calories. You're gonna burn like 500 calories every time you bust a nut, so it's kind of like a waste of calories when you could just not do that. But I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing per se. Is any addiction basically any addiction that interferes in your life is bad, but if it doesn't interfere in your life, you can watch as much porn as you want. Basically, it's my so long as it's not hurting other people, Gucci. So if it starts hurting other people or yourself, not Gucci.
It's just idiotic. It's stupid. So yeah, that's why I'm an atheist. Is because the theology stories, they're all bullshit. They don't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, there's what fucktarded God would create a stupid world and then hide behind a rock somewhere. What the hell is that? Yes, I'll make a world and I'll hide behind a rock and recite games with all the little creatures and and other animals and saying, well, they're pretty interested in their lives. They're pretty involved. And why is they have a God? No one's out for them. Looking out for them. I mean, that didn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. In anthills, and you look at these ants, and you're like, shit, look at all the work things do. And you're poking on their little mums, and they fix it and all this shit. And like, yeah, they're involved, they're living. So, what do you mean? They don't go to men, they don't have the same rights that I have? So even that didn't make any sense. So, yeah, I mean, I'm an atheist now, but I'm a rational being. But I'm an atheist at 5 years old because there was nothing about religion. It's nonsensical. Every inch of it, every millimeter of it is nonsensical. It's just, there's no way it explains anything. It doesn't, and there's nothing genuine human about it. How do you relate to it? I mean, how do you find comfort in the idea of being played with, being ruled over by some fucking creator, decided that you have to pay for sins somebody committed 2,000 years ago? What kind of, not even 2,000, 6,000, whatever it was out in the garden. The whole thing is just crazy. It's just crazy. And so, it's, I don't know how to answer the question. I mean, like I said, you can go through the list of 9. I can list you all the things I've learned since I was 5 years old. But even at 5 years old, I wasn't enough sucker to buy this stupid story. It's a stupid story. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I knew at 5 years old that I had sisters and family, and there was people lied, and people played games with truth, and you saw it around you, and you saw all the it was almost people, the grandpa's big little nose, and you don't talk about this, you don't say, you don't do the life rules of life. And you realize that, well, Jesus, if people can't even tell the truth like today, like in one day, their lives are inconsistent. What the fuck is going into a tooth-old story? And you know, you do it all the time. You go fishing. Yeah, I had a 10-foot fishing, but it fell off. Some bullshit story. It's a fish story. The whole Bible just sounded like a fish story. I mean, come on. And it's whatever. Like I said, I never relate to Christianity, and by the time I'm exposed to other religions, they seem even wackier. You know, I mean, they're probably no less wacky, but they seem even wackier because they're even less related. I mean, we sort of Americanized Christianity, but it's like other religions are Americanized. They don't even kind of thing. At least you imagine speaking English, as opposed to you would imagine. But imagine more than the rest of these people doing any of that.
I don't really know
even
what
less,
you
there's
mean,
even
man.
less affection. There's other kind of religions. So anyway, that's an answer. Your question. I think it's more curious as to why you bother listening to videos, because I'm really pretty sacrilegious. I mean, there was a God who didn't like me much.
Yeah, I like much, so yeah, let's do it.
Affection life without you knowing that until you find yourself in a place while other people move on. I don't know what you quite what you mean, my friend. I mean, there are ethical porn sites, though. I mean, there are certain sites that will only do ethical porn. I mean, so the actors are limited. So, and when it comes down to it, but there are sites that will do specifically just ethical porn with really well-paid actors and stuff like that. So, I mean, talking about ethics of porn. Yeah, there are some porn sites that are explicitly solely ethical sources of making sure, just for kids getting addicted first. I mean, that's true. I mean, yeah, you get addicted at a young age to that stuff, and then you essentially just continue being a coomer your whole life. But, when it comes down to it, being a coomer is not objectively a bad thing. It's as long as you're not hurting anyone else. It is a waste of calories, though. So, don't be wasting your calories, I guess. Try not to be a coomer. But at the same time, if you are, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. It is a waste of calories, so don't waste your calories. Calories are very important. They need replacement. Talking about the acts of cooming. When they grow up, learning that influence their perception relationship of sex and women. That's true, yeah. If you get your perspective of sex and relationships from the porn industry, you're going to have a very skewed idea of how you can be in a relationship. But I think most people are aware that, that's just an exaggerated form of art in order to make you a busted nut. So hopefully people get that. They don't think they have to be kinky as shit all the time with the girl. It's more just about like being with the person and spooning and contact and emotional contact and all that stuff. It's about emotion and physical touch, less about sex. So, but hey, that's what I.
So this one's epilism, how it's often used just, this completely hostile and antagonistic product of a depressed mind, too negative to be believed, I guess, how it's often used. A real ethical analysis you do in your head that makes total sense. I think holding an epilistic viewpoint is totally compatible with having a happy, fulfilled life for the individual. You can still enjoy your music, enjoy your art, even though you recognize that life is just a replicating molecule, that it really doesn't have any end meaning, that your subjective experience is just that subjective experience. You still feel, you still have needs, and it's not reasonable to just expect people to just kill themselves, just realize that life is just a silly broken game and just kill themselves. Obviously, sex and all this is a part of marriage. I mean, none of this is being disputed. It's just one ethical question.
Foreigners are kind
a lot of people view as beautiful in America.
unaware.
Simple ethical analysis.
They think everything is Hollywood.
They're not being deprived of anything, not suffering, not in need, have no need. And when you
I don't know why
foreigners
think America is basically Hollywood.
Machine in need. I mean, it's really a simple ethical analysis. It's not just something some angry guy made up, to try to inflict guilt for your nature. It's something that it happened naturally. This replicating molecule after billions of years it evolved like this. Now we have these drives and whatnot, this mechanism that causes it to perpetuate. But we can use insects to be ethically. It's really not
God damn
good.
it.
And really think about it deeply if you're going to be honest with yourself about it, not just indulge in other fans.
Who's one of my friends just texted me, so when we're arriving at the beach, never. I'm not going to the beach, guys. That's probably Max. Fucking Max. It's 100% Max. Yeah. Oh, it's Darren. Where you at? Yo, you asked and I said no. I'm not going. I'm not going to the beach. So when it comes down to it, that's the answer. That's sad. That's sad. I want friends to reject plans. Yo, that's understandable. Sorry, soft apple. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be hanging out with y'all at the beach, but I'm just big live streaming, doing some duty stuff, whatever, talking about ethics and also about random things. But yeah, I didn't really feel going to the beach because, frankly, the beach, sand, it's rough, it's grainy, it gets everywhere. Anakin Skywalker, basically. Could have a philosophical. You're 100% right. We could have had the conversation with Michigan. But my ball bill showed up because Lake Michigan's cold, man. Lake Michigan's cold. You guys are probably freezing right now, and I'm not freezing. So that's different. Women is getting increasingly extreme and are now being made to drink here. And man, I mean, to be fair, I think that's always been a thing. People have always been doing horrible shit in porn when we're jamming. Oh shit, man. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, but at the same time, I'm into that. So you gotta have the semen busting and demon. I don't know. Semen demon want it. I'm just kidding. When it comes down to it, they get paid, and I get to see some degrading things. So it's a mutual exchange, and they may get a little bit of PTSD and humiliation from it. When it comes down to it, it's just cap. I'm just kidding. I actually think it's fucked up too. But no, yeah, it's fucked up that people have to be exploited sexually just to make a paycheck. So yeah, I mean, it's not cool. But yeah, that's why I guess there's ethical porn sites, and there's also just your mind. You can always jerk off using your mind if you have, unless you have like infantasia or you can't like imagine things. Then I'm sorry. Yeah, like at least mainstream porn stars aren't forced to do that. Like Nick Khalifa wasn't forced to do anything like that. And so good for her. She made millions.
That we have the tools, we have the ability to not do it, that we can prevent it. Life has already been imposed on you here, and it would be unreal to expect you to just kill yourself or to just be miserable for no reason. And of course, to a reasonable extent, but I mean, indulging in music and art and having your nice little ideas and philosophy, that's all fine. It's just it leads to actions and decisions that inflict inevitable suffering or unnecessary impositions in more life. That's really the only place where any qualm with how you want to do what you will with your own existence. Just stop imposing it on more people. Not everyone is the same way you do. And there's really no point in all the suffering because of the end goal. You getting to experience parenthood and this, that, feel something is dependent on you, right? And it's cute and you love it, love you. I mean, it's all happy and fun, but this desire to continue your family bloodline, whatever, it's a temporal desire. Mechanisms get you to reproduce. Whenever you die, that desire will be gone, but the life that you impose still remains. That life to see through it, and it continues to perpetuate for no good reason. I mean, see, this is a rigged, broken game. There's no end goal. It's going anywhere. Just rational. It doesn't have to be. I mean, we just make original analysis like we would with anything else in our lives. And of course, being a harmonist, you do have to concede that all ideas and use and action is product of the physical brain. There's no freedom. There's no, and the people who are disagreeing here, I mean, it's a mechanism in their brain, that's dissonance. They get this idea that doesn't fit well with their idea of distance, and they don't like it, and, just deny it. Basically, the implications of evolution are a little depressing. I mean, you realize that the value that we place on life doesn't precede the life. It's
How was the beach, my dude?
Developed time, and most humans that live now, have some sort of concept of value in it, but I mean, it's not inherent. No value before sentient. This argument being made out, this creative need, can you justify that? Why is it good, and why would it not be better to not, since life entails and suffering, at least at some points, even though it's more limited for some people than others. There is a lot of agony to be experienced, and that is experienced every day in the world, and there's real good reason for it, and we have the ability to stop.
Doomed, we are all doomed, both individually and collectively as a species. The reason why this
We
truism
are all
is barely given the light
doomed.
day in polite society is because it is intolerably disheartening to the average mortal, necessitating as it does the employment of vigorous mental gymnastics in order to deny the otherwise glaring fact that all mankind's struggles, tribulations, tears, and shrieks of excruciating agony and mental torment will ultimately lead up to precisely a big fat zero. Once, when pointing out this very fact to a life-affirming DNA Borg, was rejoined, failing to take into account the wide oceans of time that separate us from this future eventuality, as if A, has been preordained that our species will be an exceptionally long-lived one, and B, as if the fact that our extinction is located temporarily in the future somehow mitigates against the fact that we are all essentially mired in a pointless, futile, and malignantly useless tragic comedy, that the only function of life is the maintenance and replication of strings of DNA. The focus of my talk today will be hinged on how precariously our survival on this
You're always
rotating
allowed to
lonely
vent
planet will
here.
be.
We're all
This
about
approach,
venting on
what I
this
refer
channel.
to my theorizing as
We're all
a
about
expression of
yelling our anger
technological
into the
advance.
void
Once
of the
this threshold
internet.
is crossed, and there are no compelling reasons that I can see why we should anticipate our technological and scientific advancement stalling anytime soon, then the self-destruction of our species is, I will argue, all but assured. One of the most common objections to the claim is that we're too smart to be a comparatively short-lived species. We can use science and technology to circumnavigate around any existential threats that might face our species in the future. However, I find this argument grossly naive for the simple reasons that, firstly, it is the scientific and technological advances themselves that pose the very existential threats that they claim science and technology will prevent from occurring, and secondly, there is no positive relation whatsoever between intelligence and survival of any given form of life. To illustrate this point most emphatically, consider
Grant is the name. Being an F-list dickhead is just the game. You can see the name right there, Grant.
the T-Rex. Not, it must surely be agreed, the smartest animal to ever tread the earth. Yet this species of animal managed to survive for close to 100 million years. If intelligence truly improves the chances of a species surviving for such impressively lengthy periods of time, then what are we to make of the T-Rex's durability on this earth? A second common objection is that our species is likely to spread out into the universe in the not-too-distant future, unless ensure that we survive the kinds of time frames that place us the most...
Wait, what app are you done with, Dear Prophet?
Long-lived species in the history of known life, perhaps even surpassing the longevity of certain forms of bacteria that have existed on this planet for billions of years. This, too, I find to be a naive hope for staving off our inevitable and inexorable extinction due to the sheer mind-boggling distances and time frames involved in interstellar travel. Even the nearest star to our own is 4.5 light years away, which translates into 25 trillion miles from the Earth. And even if we miraculously manage to get even that far, where would we set up shop? There are no orbital planets in that dual star system, and a void of yet even more trillions of miles would be required to reach solar systems beyond that are even more inhospitable to the survival of life than our own solar system. Much ado is currently being made about a future manned mission to Mars, which could, I can see, possibly provide a temporary outpost for our species in the event that we destroy this planet. However, there is a huge difference between establishing a temporary outpost on an alien world and creating a perfectly self-sustaining civilization far from the shores of our home planet. Please spare me, by the way, the ordeal of having to stomach the infusing sounds of anyone listening to this video waxing lyrical about the Mars One project that proposes to send men and women to Mars on a one-way voyage by 2023 AD.
2023, it's this year.
This whole project reeks of stupidity. Let's just take a brief look at the recruitment process of the astronauts alone in order to back up this claim. The people behind this project have deemed that it would be a good idea to recruit these people by appealing to members of the public to apply for jobs with them. The only real requirements are that they are prepared to die on Mars without ever returning to Earth, and that they are happy to be filmed for a TV show whilst eking out survival on the Red Planet. And this is hoped to help generate revenue to fund this laughably ridiculous venture. I mean, it's also risible. Now that I have proffered a short rebuttal to two of the most common objections to us being a short-lived species, let me just briefly outline why I see human extinction as an event that lies merely hundreds or at most thousands of years from now, rather than millions or billions of years into the deep future. As I intend to limit this video in time, this outline will necessarily be hurried and to the point. Nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering. The potential scope and destructive powers of these fledgling technologies is truly frightening. Man-made viruses could be designed to be airborne. Imagine a lethal and contagious airborne virus targeted at the human race, sweeping across the cities, towns, and villages of this world. Imagine the despondency in people's faces as the streets are lined with unmoving corpses, the clothes of the cadavers being gently caressed by the breeze of the wind as their unmoving eyes stare blindly at the sky in horror. Imagine invisible nanobots clawing their way into your skin and releasing deadly toxins into your bloodstream, or swarms of nanobots systematically convert living, breathing tissue into inanimate grey goo. Picture, if you will, cyborgs, robots, and drones firing laser guns into large crowds of petrified citizens as they inadvertently trample to death each other in frenzies of blind, uncontrollable panic. Unsettling as it is to visualize such horrors, one has to ask, how are we going to possibly prevent such horrors from unfolding in the future to the degree that it will still be possible for the majority of the human race to swallow the lie that life is worth perpetuating indefinitely? I don't believe that we will be able to, especially after cognitive mind science delivers a fatal blow to the fallacious belief that we are free unitary beings and reveal us to be merely things, DNA animated puppets dancing to the pull of the strings that compel our every thought and action, bio-robots coupled together by blind, dumb, and remorseless physical forces. As disenchantment sweeps the land of technologically advanced nations, both philanthropic and misanthropic forms of antinatalism will gain adherence. The technologies that are likely to become available in the not too distant future, mere hundreds of years from now, our species' future prospects look terminal indeed.
You're not satisfying a need that doesn't exist in your own creation. You create the need by existing.
You
It doesn't
create
exist
the
before you
need,
exist. It
baby.
exists when you exist. That's the problem
Yo,
with this life
Jamie, how's it
form. It
going?
doesn't satisfy a need that pre-existed it. It creates the
How's
need
work?
and satisfies some portion of it very inefficiently. You call that a broken machine. You call that unfunctional. A machine that consumes more than it produces is not a machine you turn on. It's a machine you turn on.
We're just
You
out
can't
here
just say that
vibing.
because it's not easy, I'm not going to do it. You can't just say it doesn't exist. You can't pretend it away. You have to acknowledge it. The horror you're imposing. You either vote for it or don't vote for it. I am voting against it, and I'm advocating that people vote against it. I'm saying it's wrong. And
Watching
I'm
some
suggesting that
amendum
people judge on it
videos.
and say it's wrong. It's not complicated. Wrongs are easily identified in positions of harm, in positions of a negative consequential
Work
impact.
slow, that's
Sentient
fair.
things,
I'm
sentient
sorry,
things
we're watching
experiencing
some negative
sensation
content. It's kind of
you
ruining your mood a little
precipitate
bit.
that happening for no benefit, like no greater number of sentience or spared suffering, then you committed a wrong. I'm saying it's a bad idea to procreate. I'm saying other people should say those very words. It's a bad idea. Don't mess with that. You're not God, so don't play God. It's a simple enough slogan. You're not God, so stop playing God. There. That's not too complicated, is it? The subject of philosophy, serious thought in general, is failing dismally on the internet. And that's the tragedy. What I'm saying is if anybody ever did take this philosophy stuff seriously, if there was a fair and open and honest debate of this subject, it's going to kick ass. Are you going to make the accusation that I'm propagandizing heavily? No, I don't think I am. Propaganda would require me to distort perspective in some way, to somehow overdo it. And I don't think I could overdo it. I mean, I could just explain to people how many animals right now, how many sentient apes, monkeys, simians, are being tortured in laboratories every day for their healthcare progress. Now, there's no justification for that. It's no better than tormenting or torturing retarded humans. And it's only done because of religious dogma that allows this distinction to be made. A silly, idiotic, propagandist perspective. So I think the propaganda is on your side of the argument. The hopeful and the wishy-washy and wishy-mushy pink panty-wearing Pollyannas are the ones who have distorted reality and pretended that this game of slaughter we're playing is of no consequence because they negated the conscious reality of all the other animals.
I think they sent a bunch of emojis, but I can't see them.
Through your personal experience, you become one of a class, and that class will exist in the future. I'm an advocate to protect those people from the people who are ignoring them. And they're ignoring them now in the present, and they'll ignore them in the future unless something changes. That's why I am advocating for a change.
Who's Diana? Diana is sounding like a farm with you. I don't know who Diana is, by the way. Is Diana the Diana the antinatalist? Is she the happy antinatalist or whatever her fucking bitch's name is? No offense. I just don't like that lady very much. She's kind of tarnished the name of the FLS community a little bit. Diantinatalist, yeah, isn't Diantinatalist Diantinatalist? No, I'm thinking of the happy. I'm thinking of a different one. Who is Diantinatalist? Let me take a gander. I'm thinking of a different person that I don't like. I'm thinking of the happy antinatalist or Diantinatalist. Yeah, let's watch her videos. Who is I thinking of? I'm thinking of like the happy or like the friend. I'm thinking of the friendly antinatalist. The friendly antinatalist. Oh, no, that is her nemesis. Okay, cool. So the friendly anti-natalist is a nemesis of the anti-natalist. Okay, that makes sense. No, but anybody who's an enemy of the friendly anti-natalist is I'm probably cool with them. Because the friendly anti-natalist, she's just a bitch. She's just a misleading hoe. But yeah, let's check out the anti-natalist channel. I haven't looked at her shit in a long time. I've clearly watched some of her content because I've heard of her before. Close player, yeah. Mother of 10, highly praised by Angel Lister. Okay. Yeah, I watched her stuff a couple months ago. I just haven't watched any of her recent content. I don't know why. Happy Father's Day, you
Hello,
impregnators.
everybody. This is Di.
Look, her last short. Oh,
and this is
okay.
Father's Day. And
We'll watch
I'm
this and
hearing
we'll
some
watch
events
her
in the neighborhood,
short.
right across the
She has a
street.
funky ass hat. What the
Seems like they're
fuck?
having a little party, probably to celebrate
She looks like
fatherhood.
she's on crack.
And they're playing tennis over there. People like to celebrate themselves and
No offense.
to,
I'm sure there's plenty of
celebrate
awesome crackheads in the
parenthood
world.
for some reason, as if it's an accomplishment to have sex and
I don't
procreate.
like her.
But anyway, I've created
My friend
my
Jamie does
Father's
not
Day
like
video.
her
It's pretty short,
fucking
but I think it's pretty sweet.
fur rug
And I
hat.
composed it
I
last
don't know what
night,
the hell's
and
going on
I'm
her
sorry
head.
it's a little bit belated today, but here goes. It's been said that we all came from an act of rape because women were taken for sexual pleasure, and the reproducing just kept on year after year. It's very probable, and in nature, the males seem to mount according to their own sexual urges. Aside from this aspect, I found it repulsive that only a man's orgasm is necessary for conception. Every natural pregnancy proved that a male received an orgasm somewhere, somehow. The same is not expected of a female.
Yeah, it's not expected, but I think it does increase the likelihood of impregnation if the female is also stimulated. So, it does encourage, biology does encourage both parties to be, getting it on. But,
The start of a series of lifelong burdens, pains, and eventual human demise
no
should
offense
have
as
started
well, says
with
Jamie.
some form of ecstasy for one or both genders. The sex act mocks our existence and the sufferings that lie ahead. It's incongruous with reality for conception.
She scared some breeders away from her property. Oh, interesting.
Impregnation
I'm gonna have to
is
watch
murder.
that. She seems a little crazy,
And so
but I
I
do
found a
like
flag that
her.
I had hidden about a year ago, and I just brought it out. And I think this is a really good day to post this flag. So I put it in the ground, and I'm going to turn my camera around and show it to you.
You can only see like half of her sign.
This is part of my Halloween display. And
Oh,
just
well, that's
today, I
fucking
was
metal.
on a estate sale, and I found this little doll baby bed.
Oh, that's
So
fair enough. All babies don't reproduce.
hope you like my video.
That's fair
And for
enough.
all of you fathers out there,
She's not
happy
wrong, and
Father's
it's
Day.
kind of like a PETA type of thing, I guess. Like, shock images to essentially, get a person to be like, oh wow, and then get a conversation going. But at the same time, I don't know if it's the best. I don't know if it's the best thing. This one right here, or this one right here. So that's the least amount of views. So
I just found a couple of tables of all females, and I'm going to be placing my card on their table when I leave.
why though? It's a little bit. It's fine, but it's a little bit imposing. I wouldn't do that myself. I would only give a card to someone if they want the conversation with me. We'll read that, I guess. Do you believe this world is cruel and unsafe place? Do you believe climate change is much worse? Does your plan need any more traumatized individuals? No. Mass into consumers and polluters. Can you think of any reason to have kids that isn't selfish? There are billions of humans and other animals in desperate need of help, and majority overall improvement. Why not use some of the sacrifices? Blah blah. and resources would take care of some new sentient humans, insisting individual ecosystems, having kids, not act of love. Yep. Basically is based, but I wouldn't give that to a random person. It's just a little bit, you know, I don't know.
I just found a couple of tables of
Click the
all
one with the
female.
car. With the car. Okay, I'll click the one with the car. What the fuck? Fair enough. I mean, sometimes you gotta just scare away the folks who are on your property, I guess. What the fuck? Yeah, I mean, I think she's a little crazy, just a little crazy. But at the same time, sometimes it takes a little crazy to recognize the truth, you know, because if you're just normie, it's just kind of unfortunate. But a lot of people don't want to realize that we have some type of obligation going on here. So they just want to go about their life and their non-depression and just be happy themselves, even if it costs plenty to other beings. So, I mean, yeah, she's cool, even if she's a bit loony. But the antenatalist is a bit loony, just a bit. That car does the moonwalk. It straight up does, man. It just fucking zoots out of there. Let's watch a really unbased video.
Hi everyone. So I guess first off, I have someone new to introduce you to.
Amen.
World or YouTube, please meet Theodore Ira.
Fuck you,
He's a little
Theodore.
preoccupied right now, otherwise he'd say hello a little bit better. But I just want to share a few things in this video. I've had a lot of people commenting and sending me messages asking me about, particularly about medications and pregnancy. So I want to share a bit more about, you know, what that was like for me, navigating, balancing, taking medications for my mental illness with pregnancy. I also want to talk a bit about, you know, the labor and delivery experience and what we kind of had to think about going into it in terms of accounting for my mental health and my mental illness, and, you know, what that experience was like, as well as what the first, I guess it's been 5 days or so have been since the arrival of this little bundle. All right, so medications through pregnancy was a bit tricky. I shared before that I initially, when I found out that I was pregnant, kind of wanted to get off as much medication as possible. And so I met with my psychiatrist right away as soon as I found out that I was pregnant to go over the medications that I was on with him. And he was really great. He was very supportive and just kind of said, you know, Lauren, I think it's important that you stay on your medication or on, you know, a
Yeah,
decent enough
she's a
dose of
little
your medication,
bundle.
just in
It's like
terms of,
more
you
like a
know,
corpse,
you being stable
future
and
corpse.
promoting your well-being in terms of promoting your baby's
Bundle
well-being
of
as well.
festering flies
But
and
he said ultimately, you know, like I'll follow your lead. And
fucking
so if you want to
wars
reduce
of
medications, we can try that.
2040
I
happen
just want to follow
over
you regularly.
water.
And so we
Just
did
kidding.
that. We
Not
went
though.
off of
We're
some
gonna definitely
medications
have
that
wars over
were a little bit
water.
more potentially harmful to the baby. And I stayed on 2 main medications, but reduced the dosage. And that didn't really go too well, unfortunately. I started getting quite a few psychotic symptoms and my mood plummeted as well. So very quickly, I think myself and my partner Rob realized, you know, this isn't going to work.
Pretty much.
So I went back to my psychiatrist and kind of explained what was happening and ended up going back higher on one of the main medications, a higher dose than I had started out on, just to kind of make sure that things were stable and to make sure that I was staying well throughout the pregnancy. So I get a lot of people asking, you know, how did you balance that, or did you go off meds completely? And the answer is, for me, no, it was not. It was not a safe option to go off the medications because, you know, my mental health just couldn't take not being on medication. And so, in order to provide the safest environment for the baby and for myself, you know, I had to work on keeping myself safe by staying on medication. But you know, we still got rid of the meds that we didn't really need and reduced it to, you know, the minimum that I needed to take. Now, one thing that did happen about somewhere around 8.5 months into my pregnancy, this is when you start to have a lot more amniotic fluid. And so my medications actually start to. So I just all of a sudden started feeling really awful again, and my symptoms started coming back. So I went to my doctor, and he told me what was happening, that my body was essentially diluting the meds. So I had to go up in dosage again at that point on one of them. And so that was hard to wrap my head around, keep going up on medication when I'm trying to, not expose my baby to as much medication as possible. But it was really necessary again. And, my body was diluting it. So he wasn't getting as much as he would have been if I was on that dose before. So that's what happened near the end of my pregnancy. So might be something to keep an eye out for if you are on or
How much is a little bit?
psychiatric medications and pregnant. So in terms of the actual delivery and going into labor and
I don't know.
whatnot,
I could
I was
be
quite
here
concerned
forever,
about
basically.
psychosis being triggered during labor because it's a very stressful, intense experience. And I didn't really understand how intense and stressful until I actually went through it. But it was something that was on my mind going into it. And so I made sure I spoke extensively with my OB about my concerns around the mental health component of the stress of labor. And so it had come up that
I'll be back in a
a
bit.
C-section was an option if things got bad, if things got to a point where I was.
Loki gonna end the stream a little bit here, but I'm gonna be back in a bit. I'm just gonna make some beans and shit, and then I'll be back.